have on items 9 and 10 some discussions related to homelessness. We have a couple administrative items. We'll have a 10 a.m. appointment for the annual report by Visit Tuolumne, and kind of routine air pollution control board meeting. We'll close with some closed sessions there. Where we're at right now, we'll be opening up oral communications, and this is your time to be able to address the Board of Supervisors on any topic that is not on the agenda today. You'll be able to have 3 minutes to speak to us. It's our time to listen to you, your time to be able to address us. So if you have any comments, please come forward.
I guess I'll be first. I'm Cindy Myers, and I'm the Executive Director at Foothill Pregnancy Center. And we've realized that a lot of our community, including our leaders in the community, don't really know who we are, even though we've been providing services for over 20 years. So we are having an open house in December 10th, from 12 to 2. And I would like to personally invite the Board of Supervisors and anyone else that's here to attend. I've got some flyers that I'd like to leave with you. That's it.
Great, thank you.
Can I just bring them up to you?
That'd be wonderful, yeah. And then we'll hand them down to our clerk. Thank you. All right.
Hello, Ree Anderson. First, my apologies to Steve for leaving a rather angry message on his phone. I hope that's okay.
It's okay, not first.
Okay. First of all, we are still having lots of trouble with CDD. They have this ministerial permit, which they have determined was how it was okay to develop the entire parcel as a disposal site, which is not correct. Ministerial permit is a definition. The word ministerial is a definition. We went over this in the last meeting, so that can't really be changed because it means there's no overriding and no interpreting. It is what it is. And the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code regulation for how a building permit gets to be managed by the building department is very clear in sections 1220.080 or 080C and D. And that is in the grading chapter. It says grading under a building permit, sewage disposal permit, etc., except as provided in subdivision E, a separate grading or a stockpiling permit is not required for the following work. And of course, a house is one of those things. Grading for construction of a private driveway and or residential dwelling, which work is authorized by a separate building permit issued by the Community Development Department and is conducted in accordance with this section. And then it goes C, exempt grading or stockpiling under a building permit shall be limited to grading or stockpiling as shown on the plot plan, not developing an entire 2.5 acre parcel as a dump. Okay, so that's it. Also, the definition of a ministerial permit in state and federal law is very clear that ministerial permits are still required to comply with ordinance codes. So grading permits are pertinent. So are everything else, including, not having a dump and a drainage, things like that. So this thing that I left a nasty message for Steve on, I was informed that the violation on the parcel was going to be negated because he'd already graded the entire parcel. It is a grading permit violation, but it is also an overdevelopment threshold violation. So negating that, it really deprives us of our rights or any hope that this dump will be shut down, because then he'll just be able to operate it because it's there. So it's entirely inappropriate. That violation needs to stay until he complies with the law. It is harmful to health and safety of the entire neighborhood. It is in a residential neighborhood. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, all. Patricia Ray, and same topic. And at this point, it's getting hard to locate things I haven't spoken of before because we have asked you to do something positive about this on behalf of our residents who can't come to these meetings as well as myself. But here goes. For one thing, CDD has said that the operators are processing and recycling materials or some such wordage. Enormous outbuilding sized old dead tree stumps and root balls are not really recyclables. They have been, I think, deliberately placed right on my fence line among other rubbish included in this dump. Now, a couple of questions. I wonder if any other California county allows such a toxic dump right in the midst of houses and people. I don't know of any, do you? And another question, if and when this is permitted to fill up, then are you guys going to let another lower income neighborhood be attacked with another dump, then another? And how do you allow this type of degradation in our county? Having just Yosemite for a tourist trap for people to stick up their selfie sticks near the waterfall or something is not enough. We need tolerable views, not pristine, but tolerable around our properties. Now it's raining. We have not had rock crushing, thank God for that for now. But the little pond is draining somewhere that used to recharge our aquifer. Where and through what? We're always kept in the dark. The drainage system, among other things, starting with no public comment whatsoever. We are still going on with being sometimes misinformed, but usually uninformed. Please get this dump out of here. Does anyone hear me? Video is available too, to see if you don't believe me. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. My name is Sean Betzendorfer, Tuolumne County resident. Last month, I informed this board that Supervisor Jaron Brandon restricts and deletes my comments on his personal Facebook page whenever I attempt to engage on official county business, including his October 21st post about tabling the Charlie Kirk resolution. I cited the U.S. Supreme Court's 2024 rulings in Linkey v. Freed and O'Connor-Ratcliffe v. Garnier, which make such viewpoint discrimination unconstitutional when the account is used for official duties. Since then, Supervisor Brandon has ignored my voicemail on his publicly listed county phone and multiple direct messages. 2 weeks ago, after I left one respectful comment on his campaign page, Jaron Brandon for Senate, he immediately restricted me there as well. In recent weeks, several other Tuolumne County residents have privately told me that they too have been restricted or blocked from commenting on Supervisor Brandon's pages, solely because they hold political views opposing to his. This is now a documented pattern affecting multiple constituents. Separately, Nicole Hurtado publicly states she left Supervisor Brandon's campaign in August of 2025. The following month, in September 2025, she posted these two stories along with others. One celebrating the violent assault of a peaceful pro-life demonstrator with the caption, "Today, women who do some jobs better than men that don't want to amount to only a baby birther have a new hero today." And a second one declaring, "Charlie Kirk told women to submit to godly men. My thoughts will not be with him. All these white men sending thoughts to his family like WTF." Those September posts are exactly what forced her to resign as Tuolumne County Democratic Chair and step away from KDEM. In March 2022, after the Sheriff's Office publicly announced I had been placed on admin leave, Supervisor Brandon had no hesitation publicly condemning my old statements. Yet he has never once publicly condemned the violent and bigoted September post made by the person who only weeks prior was part of his own campaign page. So today I have two direct yes or no questions for Supervisor Jaron Brandon. Will you now lift all restrictions that prevent me and other multiple constituents who have come forward from commenting on official county business discussed on your pages, personal or campaign? And do you condemn Nicole Hurtado's September 2025 post celebrating a violent assault and engaging in clear bigotry, or does public condemnation of offensive speech only apply when it comes from the opposite side of the aisle? The permanent public record and the voters watching will note whatever answer or continued silence we receive today. Thank you. I have screenshots, messages, and documentation available if the board or public wishes to review them.
Thank you. All right, do we have additional comments? Good morning.
Morning. But 2 months ago, in this very room, Supervisor Griefer issued a public challenge. He said he would debate anyone, anytime, anywhere, on any topic, because dialogue is the best weapon we have against evil. I am Supervisor Griefer's constituent, and I accepted his invitation and have asked for available dates multiple times. 2 months later, I'm still waiting for a response. So I'm providing a date. That's Saturday, January 24th at 4 p.m., and the topic of the debate is, when was America great? And this isn't about political theater. Our nation faces a constitutional crisis. Our county government is in crisis. We've lost institutional knowledge through firings and resignations, and last spring's grand jury report deepened the distrust many already felt. In times like these, we desperately need wise, effective local leadership. We need to define what greatness actually means, not as a slogan, but as a practical vision for our community. What does greatness look like in action? What values does it reflect? Most of my interactions with my supervisor have been on Facebook, shallow, unproductive exchanges that typify what's wrong with social media. I accepted his invitation, hoping we could transform corrosive conflict into generative conflict, the kind that clarifies positions, values, and intentions. The kind that might rebuild the foundation of trust without which no relationship and no community can thrive. That trust has been broken, and I'm not speaking only for myself. I know many in our community feel as I do. So Supervisor Griefer, you made a public promise in these chambers. Will you honor it? And if January 24th doesn't work, will you propose alternative dates? And if you won't debate me, will you please explain why your open invitation did not include me as your constituent? You said dialogue is our best weapon against evil. I agree. Now let's use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure, is that a handout for us? Yeah, just leave it up here and there we go, Liz will take it.
Hi.
Good morning.
I'm Caleb Armstrong. I'm the president and CEO of Nonprofit Construction Corporation. We're a charitable 501c3. We're working in El Dorado County. We're expanding out here to Tuolumne County. We've kind of spearheaded one housing program in El Dorado County in response to their 2021 disaster. That was the Caldor fire. That community was denied FEMA individual assistance. They lost 446 homes out of 646. 2/3 of that community was lost, and 25% of those community members were underinsured. We were formed around that disaster, and we built our organization to provide services for communities that didn't meet FEMA's individual assistance. Now, what we've done is we've actually retrofit our organization. We've gained vital sponsors such as the Home Depot Foundation, Patco Suppliers, Diamond Pacific Lumber. And what we're doing is we're actually subsidizing the rebuilding cost of construction for families. We're substantially lowering that cost. And what that does is when those disaster impacted communities are rebuilding, we actually generate equity for them. So their properties have value again, so they don't have to spend the next 20 years making payments to generate equity off of their SBA loans that they'll be getting or some other forms of disaster aid grants. Some of our sponsors are Skyline Champion Homes. It's a manufactured home company that we use to access those homes at cost. I did email you guys a PowerPoint. I hope you guys received it. Yeah, I just wanted to give you guys some information. On the 22nd of this Saturday, Karen Gardner, the Planning and Building Director of El Dorado County, will be attending our key ceremony. And that will give us, give anyone in the public an opportunity to go and look at a Title 25 home and speak with Karen Gardner or George Turnbull. He was that district supervisor at that time. It was his first term, and he had a devastating wildfire happen. So there's a lot of things that he had to learn and work with. I think there's one or two other things I wanted to cover, but in 3 minutes, it's kind of hard to do. It will be prudent for us to, hopefully I'd like to possibly request getting a town hall established, possibly in Chinese Camp, working with the assessor's office, planning and building, and then Dory Beats of OES. That way I can actually get a tentative subdivision map of the affected area, get the APN parcel numbers, figure out what properties, what size septic systems they are, things like that, and then getting all that intake information established, because I really need to get ahead of this to start providing services. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Appreciate you making the drive too. Good morning.
Good morning. I woke up at 7:53 a.m. Still, my notes were in a shambles. I'm John Flynn, your political watchdog. Take a bite out of crime. Okay, enough of that. All right. Wanted to talk about a couple subjects here. Christopher Smith, in February of 2025, he represented the county. Ryan Campbell's wife, who's a judge. Nate Smith had made comments on his post in his private residency, inflammatory, toward Haley Gore Campbell, Ryan Campbell's wife. And Christopher Smith is not a trial lawyer. This case concerning it had to go outside the county, any county, Del Norte, San Bernardino, somewhere, but not this county, and not a border county. And so he is in violation of the FARA account, F-A-R-A, and FARA stands for Foreign Agent. He's a foreigner, Foreign Agent Registry Account Number. When you all swear an oath to the U.S. Constitution, you're swearing an oath to the United States Incorporated. Incorporated in Washington, D.C., and it's all capital letters, it's a foreign country. They don't pay taxes. And you are all foreigners. And he has no business practicing law in a courtroom. He's a foreigner. This is American law. So, and he and the judge and the clerks there at the courthouse were supposed to register with the U.S. Attorney General, Foreign Agent Registry Bureau, and the National Security Department of Justice, and that's 10 days prior. And there are title codes attached. Okay, and then I'm going to stop there. And then David Vasquez is being sued in federal court, several counts, violation of the American Disability Act, raiding people's property, stealing. Second day of there was a legitimate search warrant, May 1st, 2025, May 2nd. That was legitimate. May 2nd was signed by Haley Gore Campbell. She didn't ask him what it was for. Well over 100 items were stolen from Scott Bruno. He wants it back. There are no criminal charges being filed whatsoever, not once but twice denied. And I want you to pull a California at will on David Vasquez, sheriff. After everybody's through talking, go behind closed doors and cut your losses and terminate him immediately. He'll figure it out. He's the man in the house. He'll support his wife somehow and his kids. That's it. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Do we have additional oral communications to the board? Going once, going twice. All right, seeing none, we will close oral communications. And again, thank you everybody for making time to be able to come speak to us. This is your time to be able to talk to us about whatever's on your mind that's not on the agenda. So I don't say that lightly. I do appreciate it. All right, we'll be opening up staff reports. If any members of the staff have any items of business to present, please come forward. Chief, good morning.
Good morning. Nathan Gorham, Assistant Chief, CAL FIRE, Tuolumne County Fire. This is in regard to the November 4th meeting where the Health and Human Services Agency gave a presentation on the Tuolumne County Ambulance System Assessment. And during that meeting, County Health Officer and EMS Agency Medical Director, Dr. Freeman, made a recommendation to the board that the cooperative agreement with CAL FIRE be amended to include a minimum EMS level of EMT. After auditing our career personnel working in the cooperative agreement with Tuolumne County, I wanted to advise you that although not required in the cooperative agreement, 80% or 32 out of 40 of your career paid staff are currently certified and operating as EMTs. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for the follow-up. Good morning, Doreen.
Good morning, Board. Dory Beats, Tuolumne County Office of Emergency Services, and apologies. Normally, I kind of dress up for a board meeting, but we're out in the fields usually every morning about 6:30. So wanted to give you a little update. As you know, OES coordinates the overall recovery of the TCU September Lightning Complex and specifically Chinese Camp. And Public Works is managing the debris removal contractors. Environmental Health is also managing the alternative program. I wanted to update about the great progress that we've been making. We have about 56 eligible properties for debris removal. Remember, the debris removal eligibility is based on the DINS map that was produced by CAL FIRE as a result of the fire, but also allows individuals that have a combined structure of 120 square feet or more to also be eligible. So that's why we have 56. 45 currently have signed up or turned in their right of entries. And then we're working on 11 more property individual parcels. So 45 out of 56 is about 80%. So that's great. And then out of the 45 right of entries that have been submitted, the first part of debris, phase 2 of debris removal is the A&M contractor. Tetra Tech is out there assessing each of those parcels. To date, they have done 19. So as of last night, we have completed 19 of those parcels have been assessed. The assessment includes everything from asbestos, tree, identifying vehicles. In fact, today, Tuolumne County Sheriff's Office and DMV are out doing the first phase of what they call vehicle adjudication. That is required by us to make sure we're identifying those VINs, making sure they match up, and then we're reporting that to DMV. So they are doing a very new on-site app. You'll see a little press release probably come out from both DMV and the Sheriff's Office. It's something that DMV had been working on as a result of the Palisades fire. And so they are also testing it here on the work that we're doing here in Chinese Camp. So great progress, a lot of great things that are happening. Obviously, even during the rain, it's been very wet the last couple of days. Today, it's holding up for us for the next couple of days. If there are any questions, and there are property owners for some odd reason that are still having questions about whether to sign up, please call our office, 209-533-6395. Public Works general number is 209-533-5601. For those property owners that are not going to opt in, there is an alternative program that they must follow. They can do that through the Environmental Health, which is 209-533-5639. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, do we have additional staff reports? Good
Just
morning,
a
Liz.
quick- Liz Peterson, County Administrator's Office. Just a quick thing to show you here. We worked with a graphic designer who did the 175th anniversary for the county, and we, per your board's direction, had them revise it for next year for America's 250th anniversary. And so just wanted to show you what the designer came up with. And so we'll be rolling this out next year, just like we did with the 175th this in 2025.
Wonderful.
There you go.
Excuse me, thank you. I know we kind of talked about it. I appreciate the board's input on this. You know, it falls in line with what the nation is doing as well. I know it's another one of those things we kind of threw at you at the last minute, so I appreciate you picking up the ball, and the graphic designer. Thank you for doing that. That's why I use crayons. I'm not allowed to use computers, so have a great day. Thanks.
Happy almost semi-sesquicentennial.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, do we have additional staff reports? Okay, seeing none, we will close staff reports, move on to board reports if we have any reports to each other. Looking left, looking right. All right, seeing none, move on to our consent calendar. There is one item that I think we do need to pull from this just till we have all four of us on there, would be item number 8. So I'll pull item number 8. We can hear it directly after. Are there any other items that the board would like to pull? All right, seeing none, do we have any, I guess we'll do question and comments after. All right, if the clerk can read items 1 through 7 on the consent agenda.
Item number 1, approving the minutes of the October 21, 2025 and November 04, 2025 regular meetings. Item number 2, adopting Resolution 98-25, continuing the local health emergency in Tuolumne County due to the immediate public health threat caused by hazardous waste and debris from the TCU September Lightning Complex fire, is required by California Health and Safety Code 101080. Item number 3, approving amendment number 1 to the agreement with a healthcare strategist for emergency medical services system evaluation services to extend the term, increase the rates, modify the scope of work to include assistance with the ambulance services RFP process, and authorizing the county administrative officer to sign any future related documents included in the fiscal year 25-26 adopted budget. Item number 4, adopting Resolution 99-25, authorizing the sheriff to apply for and the county administrator to accept an award of the California Department of Parks and Recreation Division of Boating and Waterways for the Boating Safety and Enforcement Financial Aid Program for fiscal year 2026-27, authorizing the county administrator to sign. Item number 5, finding that a summary of ordinance number 3486 was published on November 8, 2025 in the Union Democrat as required by law. Item number 6, adopting Resolution 100-25, proclaiming November 17 through 21, 2025 as California Clerk of the Board of Supervisors Week in Tuolumne County. Item number 7, approving a letter to Sonora Area Foundation in support of the establishment of a regional heavy equipment and forest management training program in Tuolumne County.
Great, and I know I said 1 through 7 on that. We do have the full board back. Are we able to retroactively add 8 to the reading of the consent agenda? Okay, great, and let's read 8 as well then.
Item number 8, approving an agreement and accepting $394,901 in grant funding from Amador Tuolumne Community Action Agency for Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Program Round 5 services from March 1, 2025 through June 30, 2028, recognizing unanticipated revenue and increasing appropriations in the same amount in the fiscal year 2025-26 adopted budget for FIST vote required, and authorizing the county administrator to sign all related documents.
Okay, great. I'll bring it to the board for any comments. Looking to Supervisor Griefer.
Oh, thank you. So item number 7 is the letter for the forest management training. I think this is a great idea. I know the more people we can get trained into these specific roles will definitely have a greater impact on our community. So I totally appreciate Sonora Area Foundation working with their supporting partners, and this letter will go towards that. I'm also a big supporter of item number 6, as we just heard our clerk just read, and oftentimes this agenda can get a little long, and so it's a lot of reading and it's a lot of watching and making sure that when we leave the dais and we come back, you're always on top of that. So I really appreciate all of the hard work that the clerk for the Board of Supervisors done. So thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Kirk?
I'm ready to make a motion when.
Supervisor Campbell? I only wanted to echo on item 6. A lot of people may not know that there is a California Clerks Association that meets regularly. What might sometimes seem, in its incredibly important work in administrative support to the board, is really support to the entire county. Clerks are some of the folks who keep the norms, they keep the knowledge, and serve not just a few years, but sometimes decades in these positions, assisting elected boards and staff, and becoming the one who knows where everything actually is and how things actually get processed, and become I would call maybe a VP of operations for the entire county. So I just want to say that I don't think we could do our job without the clerk of the board and the team and the admin supporting us. So with that, we have to open up for public comment. Any member of the public would like to make a comment on the consent calendar, please come forward. Great. And if you don't mind, we have to have it in the mic for the folks at home.
Caleb Armstrong, Nonprofit Construction Corporation. Just on the item with the HAP contract, I don't know, a lot of times those dollars may be predetermined on where they're going with continuum of cares, but that funding can go towards rebuilding homes in Chinese Camp as part of the Homelessness Assistance and Prevention Act. I have a letter from Planning and Building Department, Karen Gardner of El Dorado County, supporting my last letter of interest with the continuum of care in El Dorado County, supporting our application to rebuild, use some of that funding to rebuild some of the homes in Caldor or Grizzly Flats from the Caldor fire. So just possibly talk with Annie Hockett, see where those dollars may be available, and if so, it's an opportunity.
Great, thank you. Good morning.
Hi, I'm Bill, the 3-minute guy from the 4th. Bill Caldera, Manteca Ambulance. I just wanted to let you know I support what the board's doing to look at this EMS system. Since the 4th to today, I'm watching, there were obviously rumblings amongst our staff, the hospitals, in regard to, what's going on and who should do it. Healthcare Strategist has a contract with you. You're extending it today. And they're also operating a contract in San Joaquin County to do a consolidation of fire and private ambulance that will help Tracy, Lodi, and Stockton run thousands of calls. I think they are one of the best, but some of the things that came out, some of you may have been contacted by members of the community or the EMS, but basically I wanted to clarify Manteca's history a little bit, that last week Dr. Freeman suggested that we're not negotiating. We did a negotiation in writing based upon some of the challenges we've experienced in 38 years of taking all the litigation on, all the liability. The county has never had a closed session on an ambulance claim in your life. You have millions of dollars. Groveland, Stryker Court is getting morphed a little bit into the sheriff's dispatch. We have OES there. All of that's been an enterprise fund. And as when I grew up, an enterprise fund was run it like a business. And you're running it like a business, but the primary business should get the primary share before we go out and come up with other great ideas. Otherwise, you have taxes and grants. The ambulance has 4 decades. We sent a letter stating we cannot continue. Our insurance went up 500% for comp, collision, and liability from a claim we have in Oakdale 2 years ago that is still not closed, and we're settling that. Not you, we are. Number 2, our employees go get fire jobs, and I don't care for what they said about health strategists, about paramedics and EMTs historically don't really get that good a pay. Why is that? We're generating all the money that are helping public safety. That's ridiculous. So you have a chance to do this right. The other thing is we expected that we are not going to be able to disclose our private matters as a 501c3 because we probably will pull a bid. We're going to do it best. Who else can? I can't do that right here on cable channel with the potential bidders out here going to go, oh, that's what Manteca's done for 40 years. It's not common to see this. So that's going to give you some more things to think about, but we cannot move forward after June 30th. Our collision is $420,000. And we've not asked you for that. It was offered, but it had terms and conditions. Don't continue to extend contracts, start new ones. We can't do any more extensions. It's ridiculous.
Great, thank
Thank you very much.
Good morning. And just in the microphone, please. Thank you.
My name is James Nash, and I'm here because I'm advocating for the grant for the homeless. I'm a two-time survivor of Camp Justice, and I managed to get myself my place to live and got on my feet. And unfortunately, I have to have another surgery this coming month, and I have no income. They cut me off of my disability, and so there is people out here that are actually trying to be productive members of society who unfortunately just don't have the resources, to get them back on their feet and get them right in the right direction and be productive members of society. So just with that being said, please help out those who need it. And I can't take my camper back to Camp Justice again. So yeah, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm not up to speed on the Brown Act, but I believe if something's in the agenda, then a representative from that department should be here, correct? Just something to think about. As far as the ambulance, you're gonna do what you always do. Throw a bunch of money for a company, throw a bunch of money at a company to go search for somebody, and then you're gonna hire within, because we're gonna be screwed without Manteca Ambulance. So I suggest you wait, deal with what's going on, and go from there, because you're not going to find anybody better. So you might want to consider it before you vote on it.
Thank you. Do we have additional comments on the consent calendar? Going once, going twice. All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment on that and bring it back to the board. Be looking for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll move on consent calendar.
Second.
All right, we have a first by Supervisor Kirk, a second by Supervisor Campbell. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, abstaining, passes unanimously with 4 ayes. So with that, let's move into item number 9.
Item number 9, presentation discussion and board direction on the Veterans Housing Project located at 136 Columbia Way, Sonora, California.
Good morning. Oh,
It's not on, I'm sorry. Good morning, Chairman Brandon, members of the board, Michelle Clark with Health and Human Services. I'm just going to present today on the property at 136 Columbia Way that was purchased for serving veterans who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. Just want to remind the board that this was purchased using opioid settlement funding. And I also want to make sure that you realize that this property is located within the city limits. So we have definitely been diligent in communicating all progress made with the city. We continue to use opioid funding to manage the utility costs, which is about $795 per month. So on June 4th, 2025, Annie actually presented all of the different projects to the board, and I don't know why this is not, there it is. And the board directed us to go back and look at whether or not opioid settlement funding could be used to renovate the building. And then also as to whether or not a community-based organization would maybe be interested in operating the facility and program to serve the veterans. So after further inquiring with the Department of Healthcare Services, opioid funding can be used. Actually, homelessness is kind of identified as that at-risk population, and it actually would fit within that high-impact abatement activity. It also could possibly be used for supportive services if the board decided to operate the program to connect any veterans that might be struggling with substance use disorder, opioid use disorder, or mental health conditions to connect them to care or treatment. So we can use opioid settlement funding. We also believe that there would be interest in the community for operating this program to serve veterans through a community-based organization. And so we could also kind of do what we're doing with Miners Motel and Highway 108. We could do the same thing with this program, potentially. So the original plan for operating this facility at the time of purchase included the HUD-VASH rental vouchers, which combines the HUD Housing Choice vouchers with Veterans Affairs case management and supportive services. The HUD-VASH subsidy works very similar to the Section 8 Housing Choice vouchers. The amount of help a veteran would get would depend on kind of the local fair market rent and the payment standards set by the local public housing authority. Most veterans would pay about 30% of their adjusted income, monthly income, toward rent and utilities, and then the HUD-VASH voucher would pay the remainder up to the rent of the payment standard. So HUD-VASH vouchers are kind of limited per region, and as a whole, Tuolumne County as a whole, the entire county is actually a part of the Stanislaus Regional Housing Authority. So we would kind of be like grandfathered in with any others that are any other organizations that use those. I also think it's important that originally when the property was purchased that that point in time data from 2022 was collected, which indicated that there were 15 veterans who were homeless in Tuolumne County. Kind of after doing a deeper dive into, if that really is the need with Veterans Affairs and our Veteran Service Office, we do not believe that it is as high of a need for documented veterans. And so after working with Veterans Affairs, we believe that we would probably be able to get some support for about 3 to 4 vouchers for this property. So just for the board's reference, I just thought you should see the existing floor plan. It is, this is kind of what it looks like right now as a dialysis center, I believe is what it was before. It's 2,952 square feet on little over a quarter of an acre. And so originally, when we contracted with Four Creeks, we put just they included just kind of the preliminary design with Four Creeks for the Columbia Way property, did not include the full scope for the capital project on this, but this is kind of their preliminary design of like supporting, 6 small studios. I think if we were to move forward, we would ask that they do a redesign to kind of make these bigger units, 3 to 4, depending on the measurements, that might be able to serve veterans who are married or single parents. So we would recommend like 3 to 4 larger units, just kind of consistent and in alignment with kind of what a HUD vouchers could support, or kind of more with what our local need is. But this you can kind of see is just the preliminary design of the 6 small studios, which was the original vision. So these are kind of the considerations that I think the board can make with this property. Option 1, the county retains ownership. This would obviously require us to renovate it. We would need to amend the Four Creeks contract to kind of finalize the project. Obviously, public contract code and prevailing wage restrictions would apply. The county would operate the program and obviously would retain full liability, kind of similar to what we do with the Navigation Center. Option 2, the county could lease the property. I think it would still require renovations, which would mean we would still need to amend the contract with Four Creeks to complete the project. Again, the public contract code and prevailing wage restrictions would apply. The county would maintain some liability depending on kind of the language in the lease. And I would probably say that we would need to, kind of operate it consistent with the opioid settlement funds if we did it that way. County would retain, could sell the property before renovating it, so we wouldn't need an amendment to the Four Creeks contract. The ownership and liability would fully transfer from the county to whoever, ended up with it. We would need to do an updated appraisal, just to determine the current value. We would need to surplus the property with specific deed restrictions and then hold a closed session to determine price and terms. We would need to notify eligible entities through an RFP process. And then the county also may choose to leverage opioid funds to support who ended up getting it. But again, I think in that case, we would still, prevailing wages and the public contract code would apply for those pieces. Number 4, the county could sell after renovating. We could use opioid funds to renovate it. Again, amend Four Creeks contract to complete it. Public contract code and prevailing wages would apply. We would still need to do an updated appraisal after the renovations were complete. We could surplus the property, go into closed session and kind of determine price and terms, notify eligible entities through the RFP process, and ownership and liability would transfer to the new entity who upon sale. And then number 5, the county could gift the property. This would be specific to specific government code section 25539.4, where it would have to qualify as housing that was affordable for low or moderate income households. The county would have to make a decision as to whether that's in the best interest. And then it would allow disposal of the property below fair market value, including a donation. So those are the options that the board can consider. So typically, staff would make a pretty clear recommendation, but I think it would be really helpful to know where the board is what direction the board would like to pursue. If we decide to renovate it, then we definitely need to amend the contract with Four Creeks to complete the project. But if you decide to dispose of it beforehand, then we wouldn't need to do that. I think for us to make an informed decision, I think it would be really helpful to have a cost estimate of the entire project, which we do not have. It was not included in the contract. And so I think for us, just given how significantly these building renovations are trending in terms of cost, they're pretty high. It just seems like we would need a cost estimate to be able to move forward if we were going to decide to renovate it. So I think I would definitely estimate high, $1 million or over for the renovation, just going off of kind of what we've been seeing through, managing these capital projects. So yeah, that at this point, we're just kind of looking for some direction from you guys, or if you want to renovate this, then we can move forward with amending the contract with Four Creeks.
Great, thank you for the presentation. Supervisor Kirk?
Yeah, Supervisor Brandon looked at me first, so I guess I get to go first. How long have we owned this for? This piece, do you know?
We purchased it in 2023, December 2023.
About 2 years. Okay. And we thought it was going to be 15 vets, 6 units. Now we're talking about 3 to 4 units. Do we have any idea what the price difference would be for? So right now, Four Creeks has a plan for the 6 units. Okay.
It was just a preliminary design. We don't have anything else that goes with that yet.
Okay, and no idea what it would cost to redesign it for 3 to 4 units?
Not yet.
No, okay. Because where my mind's at with this is, I mean, I'm sitting here and I hear the options. It's really useful when we have recommendations from you guys, and I know that you want to hear from us, but I feel like the recommendation was when the board said, I know for me personally, I really want to help veterans, so I'm still in that same boat. So part of me is like, okay, we've had this for 2 years. I would think that we would be moving on this. So if your question is, what do we want to do as a board? I still want to help veterans. So I just want to know what the best case scenario is to make that happen. Like if we're going out for an RFP with minors to potentially have the private sector take it over, can we entertain that option with this? Is that kind of where we're at? Or is that an option?
Yeah, I think one of the problems with this facilities is that it's obviously going to need like a full renovation to do that based on kind of the existing plans, how it, how it currently is. And so originally, I think Annie and I were thinking that it might, because we can use opioid funds, it might be good to renovate the property and then do what we did with Miners. Because Miners, I think, is, kind of already built to be able to kind of, provide studios. This is not. And so, I think whatever entity ended up with it would obviously have to renovate it. And so I wonder if that could limit us.
Could we not renovate it, go out for an RFP and say, you gotta do 6 units? Or, I mean, if we already have the preliminary on the 6 units, I'd rather just keep it simple and stick with that. But could we go out and say, you guys give us an RFP for how much you think it's gonna go, and then that way they could maybe do it for 600,000 instead of 1.2 million? I mean, can we go down that path instead of renovating it and?
Yeah, so I think that I think for like option number 3, if we wanted to kind of surplus sell and then renovate, I do think that, we could possibly help leverage it with some opioid funds. I do think that that's an option. So if we went through the RFP process and they said, we can come up with this much, but we need help with this much, then possibly, leverage with the use of opioid funds.
So what I'm hearing you say is maybe we could go out for an RFP, hand it off to a nonprofit, but they still have to provide veteran services out of it. And they could potentially tap into opioid funding to help offset some of the costs to do the renovation at a lower cost. So that's kind of where I'm at, and it sounds like we might be able to do that. So, okay. Thanks for
Yeah,
answering
I
my
think we
questions.
could do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Supervisor Griefer?
Oh, thank you. So I have my notes from the from the June 6th meeting, and we kind of, if we've discussed this in length for a while. So how much have we spent on this project so far?
The purchase was 250,000. And I did not actually, and I should have done that, I apologize. It's 795 approximately a month for utilities that we're paying on. So back to 23.
Okay.
795 a month. And that's basically what we've been paying through opioid funds the entire time.
My human calculator is not here today.
I know.
So
I could
we'll
bust out,
just
yeah.
bump it up a little bit to 800 a month.
800,
Okay.
yeah.
And then secondly, how much do we have left specifically for this project?
So we didn't have any money to renovate it. We had to kind of go look for it. And during the June 4th meeting, I recall you guys wanting to kind of find out if that was a possibility. I think there was concern about whether or not, if the veterans who were living there needed to have like an opioid use disorder, and that is not the case. They are already kind of classified as an at-risk population for being homeless, and so it really does fit. So, I mean, opioid settlement funds are there, and they're coming in for the next 8 to 14 years.
Right. And so just to be clear, is that there was at one point the belief that in order for veterans to be in here, they had to have an addiction of some sort. That is no longer the case. We could take the veterans, and I echo, I'm sure the board's position is that we wish to support our veterans 100%. So that's not my mindset. I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. To Supervisor Kirk's point of what is the right thing, I think the right thing is to do exactly what we did with the Miners Motel and turn this over to a nonprofit who can specialize it. Because one of the things on your slide right here, which is very important for the public to know, is public contract code and prevailing wage. Prevailing wage is $80 an hour, if around that ish, right? Which is set in Oakland in the Bay Area. So there's no way we can ever compete with the prevailing wage if we do it as an organization. However, if we do with the Miners Motel, we do with this property the same thing we did with the Miners Motel. We can use the opioid money. It'll actually go a lot farther because that dollar will then be on their business model rather than us as an organization being forced to pay a rate that we can't compete with. Am I in the weeds? Am I close?
I agree. I think that that's why we had a hard time making a recommendation today just because they are trending so high. If
Right.
we end up doing them because of these different requirements, they do come in very high.
So someone mentioned earlier that we need to run government like a business, and this is one of those business moments. I wholeheartedly support the past board in their position of wanting to do the right thing with this money and assisting not just our homeless, but our veterans and the people that we as a society should be lifting up and helping out. But there comes a point where we have to stop the bleeding. To Supervisor Kirk's point, this property was originally addressed in 2022, purchased in 2023. It's been sitting vacant since 2023 at $800 a month. Is that the best use of opioid money to serve our population? So my recommendation, after my colleagues, and I'm sure that the citizens will speak, is that we do exactly with this property that we did with the Miners Motel, because I don't believe it is in the best interest of government to be in this business. I think the best interest of government is to be good stewards of the money and find the best way to use the money, that opioid money, to go a lot farther if we have private organizations do it, because we all know that private organizations can do it a lot better, cheaper, and faster than government can do.
Supervisor, can I interrupt just one point of clarity? We would want to make sure that if we were able to transfer opioid funding to a community-based organization, that the prevailing wage wouldn't still apply. So we still would need to make sure of that. I'm looking over at County Council, because I think we still are a little unclear if we would have to work that out to make sure.
Well, I think
I think it would just be on the portions that we would be helping with, was my understanding.
Well,
So,
the reality is that we can't there's no such thing as a perfect world, right? So we can't, if we can unload this property to an organization that can do better, go farther, and yes, they're still stuck with prevailing wage, then that would be an issue that they would have to address. But if we can take this money and, work with that organization, whomever it might be, to do the exact same thing that Supervisor Kirk mentioned earlier with, sending it out to see who wants to pick this up, because look, this isn't our house, right? I mean, we've discussed this in length that we purchased these properties. They've been sitting now vacant for a long time. I know it's a thorn in the city side that this building is sitting there and nothing's been happening. I know I have a hard time looking at people and saying, yes, we're getting this money and it's just being used on utilities on an empty building for $800 a month since December of 2023. I don't think this building should have ever been purchased by the county, but that ship sailed. That's exactly why we had the open hearings or discussions about how we got to this point. We're here now. I've used this analogy before. In my mind, I have a flow chart. Is this the best part? If not, then let's move forward. If it is, let's go forward. And if not, let's go back. So my questions would be the same, is how much are we into it for? How much do we have left? The answer is 0. We don't have any money left, so we're gonna have to get super creative, right, about how to make that function. And I probably just put words into your mouth, and I don't mean to do that. But my position is still the same, is that this is not the best role of government. We need to come up with ways to move it on. And I know I broke my own rule by getting on my high horse, and I do apologize to the chair. So, sorry.
It's a nice horse.
I just wanted to clarify also, Supervisor Griefer, that there was no additional money. We went and found it. There is money through opioid funding. Also, I think it's also important to know as a reminder that in order for us to spend opioid money each year in a spending plan, our annual spending plan, we have to spend 50% in those high impact abatement activity programs. So I just wanted to make sure you guys are aware that this would be considered a high impact. No matter how we do it, I think it would still fit that category.
Great. I have some quick comments. Then I wanted to call a brief break on it to see if Supervisor Campbell's able to come back. I know we normally do that around 10. All to say, we've had a lot of staffing changes, and who's been responsible for it. I know that's led to some delays. To my knowledge, we haven't put general fund into this. This has been within these grant funds for these purposes. I wanted to ask if the HUD-VASH allowed only single occupancy.
No, it does not.
I'm in support of option number 5. I agree. I think we're in a unique position to acquire these and to make that accessible to nonprofits. Nonprofits are in a better position to be able to operate and run these. My only concern is to make sure that when we offer this to a nonprofit, that the renovation is not to become slum housing. And I don't think our nonprofit partners would do that, but to ensure that there is some level of quality. If we are giving a building effectively for free, we don't want a bad actor to come in and take advantage of veterans either. What accountability at some level exists within that? Or do we give that up if we give the property over entirely? So I'm a fan of option 5. If we needed to renovate and then sell, I'd be open to other options, but to me, transfer makes the most sense. So with that, let's take a, I don't know, we'll do that after with the vote. We'll get Ryan back for his comments. So then take a 10-minute recess to 10. Let's go 10:12, and we'll reconvene the board meeting. All right, if we can have everybody please take your seats. We're going to be reconvening the Board of Supervisors meeting shortly. All right. If we can bring the presentation back up. Wonderful. And I think we can go to, the final option there. All right. So with that, and I think summarizing at least some of the conversation we just had, it sounds like there's some support for looking at option 5, if I'm hearing this correct from my colleagues. The heck, we're missing one. Sorry. Well, can we, what? Oh, thank you. Yeah, of course, we have to do public comment. Very convenient. Well, we're perfect. All right, so we'll open up public comment on this item. If any members of the public would like to speak, please come forward. Sorry, I didn't see you weren't there.
Hi, Caleb Armstrong, Nonprofit Construction Corporation. We're listed on Cal HFA and HCD's website as an eligible housing sponsor. We do provide veteran housing services. We have spoke with Northern California VA in partnership for HUD-VASH vouchers allocated directly from them. But there are some things with the HUD-VASH voucher itself, that individual voucher, not a project-based HUD-VASH voucher, is that voucher can actually be used for home ownership. I think with this property, there are some certain elements to elevating the veteran community. When you look at whatever type of HUD-VASH voucher may be applied to this housing, it's really important to understand that there's a certain level of sustainability from those vouchers. So if those vouchers are put up to 120% fair market value for those rental units for what those veterans are getting, we can actually fund a veteran shuttle program, possibly some other programs that are needed in Tuolumne County to help fill a critical gap in what those veterans may be missing. Secondly, that building, as what it was for, is previously for dialysis. There are a lot of veterans that do need dialysis services that aren't necessarily on opioids. So that is a potential partnership with, say, Anthem here locally. We could present that and speak with them and talk to them and see what kind of level of involvement we could get from service providers on medical needs. But some veterans really do need dialysis. It's a very important situation. On the on the prevailing wage. So one instance of lowering the cost of that development is actually just scrapping the whole building. And another aspect and concept, because if you use modular building, you actually avoid prevailing wage. Once that building lands on site, then it is then subject to prevailing wage, but those buildings are 70% done before they hit the site. That actually gives you a little bit more room to do possibly more congregate housing or more units, which then would allocate more HUD housing vouchers towards it, which would then substantiate or up the sustainability from those vouchers of the 120%. The future funding opportunities currently going on across the nation with the new administration, they're getting really tight, especially for continuum of cares and other funding opportunities. So I advocate for option 4 of it being renovated prior, just because those funding dollars are getting tight in that forecast. It's going to be hard for 501c3s in the future to be working with continuum of cares or counties because our whole funding forecast is getting very closed up.
Wonderful. Thank you. Do we have additional comments on this item? Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Again, you guys all know me, but my name is Trinity Avila. I'm the CEO of Habitat for Humanity. So I'm really excited to see this come to you today. We've talked about this before. Just the value and the importance of going after these funds. So I really appreciate Supervisor Gray for what you had to say. And same for you, Brandon, all of you. And Anaya, it's really important. The money, when it's out there, it's on the table, and it takes a municipality or a county to go and get it. And I really applaud you for going after the money that was sitting there so it can be put here in Tuolumne County. However, with that said, it's important to note that the county is not a builder. You're not a construction company, and that is doing good business means partnering with an entity like Habitat and being able to make these projects come into a reality. I'm out of breath because I just ran up 3 flights of stairs.
We do have an elevator.
You do, but I wasn't going to make it in time. So I was watching you on my phone trying to get here just in time for this public comment. So I apologize for being out of breath because the elevator's really slow out there. So with that being said, we at Habitat, we can take a project like this and we can make it a reality. We need you to go after the government funding. We need you to purchase properties like this, get the money like this. And then as you're talking about, be able to turn it over to a partnership like us. The difference being is we're gonna be able to take this project, we're gonna be able to do its original intent and serve veterans, because not only are we a construction company, but we're gonna be able to vet the right people into the housing as needed so that we can make sure that this remains veteran housing. And on top of that, because Habitat is more than just a construction company, we're a social service program. So once we get people into these projects, we're able to oversee it for the long term. And not, like you said, Supervisor Brandon, make sure that we're not providing substandard housing, but we're providing housing that brings dignity and hope to the community, and especially veterans. So I encourage you, which is again, I just ran up 4 flights of stairs, for you to really consider the benefit of partnering with a nonprofit such as Habitat for Humanity so that a project like this can be implemented in a timely fashion, definitely with hopefully a lower budget, and we're gonna be able to really help the people in Tuolumne County. So that was all. Thank you.
Thank you. Take a breather. Do we have additional public comment on this item? Good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to say, like, I've been watching this process for a very long time. I know everything that happened with the previous staff, and I'm just wondering, like, if anybody's ever going to be held accountable for the fact that we have all these buildings that have been purchased and they're empty for years and people are out there suffering. And, you know, I know that there was staff that purchased the buildings, but you guys oversaw the buildings and approved the projects that didn't have, you know, they weren't up to standard to be opened yet. So I'm just wondering, like, is there ever going to be any accountability for the stuff that happened in the past? Thanks.
Thank you. We have additional public comment? Going once, going twice. All right, with that, we will close public comment. I will go to Supervisor Campbell.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you very much for the information and for the participation of our community members. Just looking at the options that you've laid out for us, do you have a preference there? Is there a recommendation amongst the 5 options that you have here?
Well, I think that we originally just thought it would be really helpful to amend the contract with Four Creeks to kind of get the full picture of what the cost of the project would be. And then, you know, probably do either option 3 or option 4. Because we do have the opioid settlement funds that can be used. My concern has been that, as Supervisor Griefer pointed out, that for us to do the construction pieces, it's just always costing more. And so that is what our experience has been now that we have gotten, you know, kind of been involved in these capital projects, is that they tend to trend very high. And so it's hard to make this very clear recommendation when we do not know the entire cost of what the project would be. And I do believe, after working with our Veteran Affairs office, just kind of understanding what, HUD-VASH would support is, I do believe that the 6 small studios they're too small. And I think with who they're serving in our county are married couples or single parents, and larger studios would be better. And so we would love to see a new design with, kind of the 3 to 4 larger units in mind. And then obviously to know kind of what that would cost. So I think we were aiming towards number 3 or number 4. But again, these capital projects cost a lot.
Yeah, well, and that was kind of where I was going with this, is that it seems like there's a lot of interest in gifting the property, which I understand. We want, if there's somebody out there who can make use of it quicker than us. But I also have, the property was purchased with taxpayer funds, and so retaining some kind of, control over that property does seem like it makes a lot of sense, because, there might be uses for it down the road, 5 years, 10 years, that we haven't even envisioned yet. I was looking at option 2, where we lease the property. What wouldn't that accomplish kind of the same thing as gifting it, but the county would still retain some oversight or some ability if we lease it to a group or individual who's performing a lot of these functions. They can use that money, and then if they want to do something else, or if there's no longer that need there, if we're leasing it for whatever, $1 or something, or whatever is appropriate under the grant fund, then it can come back to the county for another purpose, right?
Correct. I think it would just depend on how, what the lease language says, and, if we would get any bidders on, from entities wanting to lease.
Yeah, and that's a question. Would that make it less attractive to bidders?
I think just hearing kind of the public comment today, it sounds like, for example, if Habitat, was an eligible entity that was interested, it sounds like they would probably want to operate it. I think it fits more with option number 3 or 4, where we would then possibly surplus with deed restrictions and then kind of do what we're doing with Miners Motel.
So where the county uses the opioid settlement money to do the renovations, do the improvements, and then hand it off to
right, or we could leverage
as yet unnamed agency in the community to administer the program and be the.
Right. I just said that just because she was just one of the example speakers, but anybody who would, obviously submit a proposal through the RFP process. And I think that you could also leverage the opioid funds. So if they had some funding, we could also possibly leverage opioid funds to support it. I think that, again, it's hard to spend opioid money because of that high impact abatement 50% requirement. And so this could possibly help open that up, because it does meet one of the high impact abatement activities, which is the at-risk of homelessness or homelessness. So that fits.
Well, so just flat, which of the options best meets the needs of local nonprofits? What have they come to you and told you is the best option to support them in their mission?
3 or 4.
Okay.
I don't know that we have heard of any interest in leasing, but I could definitely look into that further.
No, not necessarily. If I'm the only one interested in that, then I wouldn't say that's necessary.
I don't think there has been any.
Supervisor, I would add that that was kind of the vision with the Navigation Center, if you recall, and we didn't have any interest back then. Granted, that was several years ago, but I think we're factoring that in, that experience, when we try to predict who may step forward and what they'd be interested in.
Okay.
Can I ask the difference between item 3 or recommendation 3 or 5 here? it is functionally the same thing, except one is not charging a cost, so it's a donation under a different code. But really, we're just transferring it the same way, same requirements that we could negotiate or contract of transfer. The only difference is one would be for a competitive value and one would be a free value. Is that correct?
I would have to ask Cody to speak to that.
Yeah, the option number 5 really regarding gifting the property, that is really disposing of the property at less than fair market value, whether it be a lease or a sale. It could be a complete donation, or it can be just lower than fair market value in their specific findings and deed restrictions that would need to be in place under the Surplus Land Act.
Because I'm asking if the nonprofits came forward and said, well, we like option 3, maybe they didn't know option 5 was an option, or that would be kind of included, because option 5, from that perspective, seems to be more ideal. It's all the benefits of option 3, except it would be effectively a donation. Am I understanding that correct, probably?
Correct. Cody, I'm not sure if, I think they would still have to fit those same entities, right? The same housing sponsor, yeah.
Under the exemptions that we've been looking at, yes.
Right.
Okay.
So I think you're right, Supervisor Brandon. I think it would be pretty similar, but could be a donation.
So just in layman's terms that a dumb person like me can understand. So if we're gifting the property, because I don't see that here as part of the option, that we are also spending the grant funds to make the improvements to the property. So is that what we're saying, gifting it, that we will retain ownership of it, spend the grant funds to make the improvements, and then gift it to another nonprofit? Is that the plan? Or are we just flat out saying, we don't want anything to do with it anymore, we're gifting the property? Because then now you're putting the burden on the nonprofit to pay for those improvements that we have a grant for. That's why I'm a little bit hesitant.
Yeah, that
about
was my
gifting it.
understanding with gifting of the property too. We did not connect it to, opioid or anything like that. It was just, donate it and then we're done.
Because the power of this funding is that we can make these improvements to it and then work with a nonprofit so that they're not spending all that money up front with this building that needs a lot of work to make it usable.
Right, and I would assume that they would have to go and find grants and probably not be able to cover the entire project. And so since we do have access to the opioid funding, and again, somewhat difficult to spend because of that, that 50% requirement, I think, that's why we were kind of leaning towards option 3, where you could sell before renovations, we could leverage, or number 4, we could use opioid, renovate, finish the project, and then kind of do the surplus piece.
Yeah, because I'm all for the county not being overseeing it and getting out from using it. But if there's this grant there that we can utilize to help the next group that's going to take it over, I want to do that too. I don't know, just my thought.
Supervisor Griefer?
So hypothetically, we sell it, we do number 3. So X organization comes in and says, I'll buy it. That money goes where? Does it go into the general fund, or does it go back to you guys?
I think it would, it doesn't come to us. I think it would have to go back into the opioid fund account.
Okay. So we've been down this road before. We've had this discussion in length regarding the Miners Motel. This is exactly Miners Motel 2.0. So we've already established that we're going to, we've given direction to unload the Miners Motel with certain caveats to whomever takes it over. They would have to fall within the brackets that the terms of the funding would require, as well as the mission of the board's direction. Correct? So we could do the exact same thing, and I just want to make sure that I'm understanding. When on item number 5, county gifts property is actually selling surplus, right? We're using the same language. We declared Miners Motel as a surplus property,
Right.
And now we've gone through this property, so, right? We're going through this process. So in theory, item number 5 should really say, declare this facility as surplus to remove from our books so we can assign to give to a nonprofit or an organization to take it over.
Correct. If it's declared surplus, it could be sold at fair market value. It would have to go through the Surplus Land Act process. It could also be disposed of as exempt from the Surplus Land Act with caveats, with deed restrictions.
Right. Okay.
It would still have to be ran as affordable housing.
No, right,
Yeah,
right,
okay.
right. But I just want to make sure that, because it looks like we've intertwined two different terms here. And I just want to make sure. So I think the best thing that this organization, the county can do to serve the people and be good stewards of the money. Again, I have a hard time spending any money on additional designs for this building. I have a hard time spending another $800 a month. We're already getting $19,000 on this property. That opioid money was not designed to go to paying utilities for a building that's been sitting there for 2 years. I have a hard time with this. That money could go somewhere else or be used in a better way, in my opinion. So my position is this, is that we just cut our losses on this facility. We declare it surplus. We go with item number 5. And whether it's Habitat or the gentleman left or the other, whoever wants it, they can run it better and do better. It's not our business as government to be in this business.
Supervisor Kirk?
So I don't know if there was a majority for that. Where I'm at is kind of what Campbell had said about the opioid money is to be utilized for these projects. So what I don't want to do is we're trying to cut our losses, but then we go out to an RFP and then a nonprofit won't be able to make it happen because it's going to be too much money and it's going to be too much time. The umbrella of this whole idea is to provide housing for veterans. I think the quickest way we can get there is if staff says that we can use this opioid money to do it, then I'm kind of okay with 3 or 4, go back, have a couple conversations, maybe with some nonprofits, see what the best path forward is, and let's not do this for another 2 years. Let's jump on this, get it completed. If that means we spend the money to do the rehab, to hand it off, that's great. If that means we can do a partnership, great. But I think if we just cut our losses, it could end up sitting there much longer and being a much longer process and really not. The heart of this is let's help veterans. So let's get to that as quick as we can and not use general fund monies to do it and not put a potential partner that is going to help us put them behind the 8 ball because we have the funding, but we're withholding it from making it happen. So that's just my opinion, but so that's where I'm at. 3 or 4, go back to the drawing board. That would be the tone and get going on it. And I don't want it to come back unless you absolutely have to.
And I'll go to Supervisor Griefer after this. I'm hearing similar comments too, and I think we're saying largely the same thing. The numbering is kind of confusing on this. To Supervisor Campbell's point, in my kind of view of that, item 3 or 5, we would still be partnering with them on potentially some of the costs. So it wouldn't be, here it is, it's all your problem now. It would be coming from those funds. My understanding of the difference between 3 and 4 is 4 means we are designing and renovating absolutely everything. We are making all the decisions. Whereas 3 or 5, we could negotiate to say we are going to come in and, like the No Place Like Home grant, we're going to renovate, we're going to provide 40% or 50% of the cost for all of these repairs because 2 of these are opioid funded units. The other 2 they can do separate, or maybe we're going to do the roofing, but we're not having to do every single contract. Right. There are things where it's probably complicated for us under public contract code. That is my understanding of this, and I think what I'm hearing is we're saying different numbers, but we're kind of on the same page of we should try to offer this to a nonprofit. We should support that nonprofit with some of these funds, that we may then have some of these funds which don't disappear, but they go back into the opioid settlement funds to be redistributed to other programs or other high impact type services. I did want to recommend that whatever we do, there is a deed restriction or a contract on it. I think this needs to be veterans housing. I think it should be 6 units. I think 4 may be a better ideal space, but my priority first at this level of first step housing is more people. And if later the need is met overall, they could renovate 2 and knock down a wall. Right now, it's trying to get people off the streets. So if that's option 3, and then partnering, and maybe option 3, we just give them a really good rate. I don't know. The only thing I don't want to do is put this up in the market for a surplus sale and then basically force nonprofits to pay us money from their donations to then do what I would consider a favor to the community in running this really good service. I would rather them take that on for free, and their contribution is the future management and renovation of that.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify like how it's up there. Like these were just the options, and I think what you can say is if option number 4, where county sells after renovation, county basically will take on the entire cost of the project for that that option. 3, it was kind of either the entity who ends up getting it can absorb the entire cost of the project, or they can't, and so then we can possibly help leverage through like the RFP process. So they would submit proposals and tell us kind of what is, what the plan is. And so those were kind of the difference. So I think option 3, it's like if they can do the whole project, great. If not, then they might need to ask for, like you said, the roof, support with that. So I think that's what we were trying to kind of show. But again, I think that there is this funding that can support exactly what Supervisor Kirk was saying. And so I just wanted to make sure I clarified that. And then also what's difficult is that once it's surplused, then it has to go to closed session, and then price and terms are talked about at that closed session. So I have no idea what would be determined at that point, so that's just, I think, important to note.
Supervisor Grufer?
You actually, Mr. Supervisor, kind of started going down a rabbit hole I was curious about. Let's just say, hypothetically, X organization gets the property. We choose not to do anything. Out of the opioid money, can you say, hey, it's going to cost you $1 million to get this facility. Here's a check for $1 million out of opioid?
Oh, Cody was reaching first. I'll let him go first.
All I was going to say is if we're going to be using public funds for construction project, that prevailing wage requirements would apply, even if it's a private property. So,
well, that's, I guess, my question is that it's not public funds, right? This is opioid settlement money specifically designated to rehabbing and refurbishing this building. And my question is if we were to give X organization this building under surplus, and then they were to come back to us and say, hey, how about can you use some of that money to help now? Because we have that already occurring in other properties, correct?
Are you referring to 108?
Yes.
We are in the process of still receiving what proposals it would look like. But I can tell you that I anticipate anybody that's interested is going to request some financial support because of the sheer cost of some of these projects.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that's toward operations as opposed to construction or renovation, I would assume.
Well, again, we haven't received the final proposals, but I think we anticipate it being undoable for some community-based organizations to have $1 million or $2 million to renovate a building.
And then kind of my final point is that we've had lengthy discussions regarding, and the one thing that I keep hearing coming out of your department is that you don't want to be in the management business any longer, right? You don't want to be managing the turning us into a new facility or anything like that. Your mission is to operate and provide service, right, to the people of this community. It's not to be managers of this building, coming up with new designs, a new roof or what have you, right? I mean, that's not their mission. So to best satisfy the intent of the money that we receive through this, I still think is the best thing to do is to go with item number 5. Let the nonprofits handle it. Because no nonprofit's going to come before us and say, "Hey, we're willing to do this," and then realize, "Oops, maybe we shouldn't have gotten into bed with this." Right? They're going to do because they're going to look at it from a business, right, aspect as well. And if we do have to pay prevailing wage in any way, shape, or form, the nonprofit can say, "Hey, look, I can make my dollar go farther through my donations to get this thing done." So the question is, does the government want to be in charge of this, or does the government want to be good stewards of the people's money and serve the people of our community and get us out of this?
And I'm less worried about the prevailing wage restrictions of what it's paying the employees to do it than all of the different, I don't even know how many RFPs for all the different types of work that has to be done on the property.
But that wouldn't be us though, right?
Under what you're saying, no, we wouldn't. I agree.
Right, so once that organization takes it over, it's theirs. They're gonna do their thing. We can be as supportive as we can. If there's a legal requirement that we can give some money to them and say, hey, look, here's a $500,000 for the new roof or what have you. Or maybe the county wants to work a way out to be good partners with that. I'm all for that. I just think we need to stop with getting into this business because eventually temporary becomes permanent and this is gonna be stuck on our books forever. Right? What if we don't get people who want to be a part of it? Right? There's no requirement for anybody to go into this, right? So we could do all of this great work and then people say, no, I don't want to live under your rules. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I doubt that would happen, but there's always that chance, right? We're an independent, strong nation, right? We can't force anybody to do anything. right? So I would say let the people who are the pros do what they do best, and let's be good stewards of the money.
So what I'm here, Supervisor Campbell.
Well, I was gonna try and wrap it up a little bit. I agree where Supervisor Kirk was with it, and I think Supervisor Brandon, I heard mostly the same things. So what we're being asked to do is to authorize staff to negotiate and execute amendment for the Four Creeks contract, right? That's first and foremost. Okay, and then beyond that, you want to know what we want to do with these things. It sounds like, can we just say, look into options 3 and 4? And I have an idea about how the order in which to do that. And hopefully it accomplishes some of the things that you're talking about, Supervisor Griefer, is that we start with the RFP to see where nonprofits are, what they would like to do before we spend any money on rehabilitating that property, because they're in a better position to know how many rooms, how they should be arranged, what, you know. And so we get the RFPs from the nonprofits. That will be kind of the winning RFP will be sort of the framework for what the idea is. Then we develop a housing plan with whoever the winning RFP is, still for veterans, of course. So it has to include that. Utilize grants to perform the work, and then transfer ownership, surplus the property at that point. Is that?
And to clarify, because I was mentioning it, I do agree with everything you said except for the amendment contract with Four Creeks. I would not say we should do project design with those options. We should allow them to create their design. Everything else, I would agree with that.
Does that work? Without?
We would have to surplus before we went to RFP.
Why?
Could we do an RFI?
No,
Just to,
let's not split.
That's just my understanding. Maybe Cody can better answer that.
We've already done this. We've already done this with the Miners Motel.
Yeah.
Either we
Well,
take
that's-
either we
that's
take
kinda
the
what I
Miners
was-
Motel approach in this, and we duplicate that effort.
So,
and we-
So
which
we've
one of
al-
these is the Miners Motel?
Number 5.
approach?
So we've already
No,
surplus Miners Motel, and now we're in the RFP process.
Yeah, that's option 4, right?
No, number 5 is surplus.
Well,
Option
option
three,
three.
because
Option
it's selling.
3 is selling, surplusing, and then
Yeah.
option 3 was, and
Okay, I could have
do
got
the
my wires
RFP,
crossed.
and then you would find out whether or not we would want to leverage or
Okay.
not.
Well, I made it more complicated. I'll just say option 3, if that's what we did with the 108
That's what we
Hotel.
did with Miners Motel.
Okay.
And the only difference, again, this is why I asked it earlier, that I'm hearing between 3 and 5 is one of it is surplusing to sell or put up for bids. And the other one is saying, we're not trying to receive any money, we are transferring this for free
Maybe
as a donation.
I'll try to summarize kind of what I'm hearing, and I'll look to county
Yes,
council.
please.
I think what I'm hearing is the ultimate goal is to transfer to a community-based organization for operations. That's the ultimate goal. And that's the path we're going down with miners. The difference in this that we're asking is, do you want us to do any work on the property before we get there? So that additional work would be to amend the contract so that they could redesign to a smaller setting, and get a cost estimate so that we know what it would really cost to complete the project. So I think that, if I was to summarize what all of the conversation and the charts is trying to show, is those are essentially the two different paths. We want to get to the same end goal. What do we do in the interim is, I think, what we're asking the board to give us direction on. Hopefully that helps. Looking over.
That sounds to me like a good consolidation of the motion rather than kind of talking in the numbers. So if we're looking at the board, transfer to a CBO, be able to put it up for an RFP to receive proposals of what they would like to see in that. And would you recommend that it would be wise for us to, in that circumstance, do a project design and have that ready and prepared even if another entity really is doing the project? And
I think it could be helpful for the other entity, yes, just based on the fact that it is not set up right now for any kind of housing.
Okay. Well, I think we've had public comment and board discussion for a motion.
I'll make a motion. So I'll move that we authorize staff to negotiate and execute an amendment, and then revise the design, prepare a comprehensive cost estimate, and then adopt option 3 as a pathway.
Supervisor, could you split your
Continue.
motion, please?
Could I what?
Just to cut
Can
it
you
in
split
half.
your motion, please?
So-
So I'll vote, because I'm not going to vote for the first part, but I'll vote for the second part.
Oh, okay. Do you need the first part in order to do the second part?
The amending of the contract?
Yeah. Okay, so we're not on board with amending the contract? Okay, all right, so, first motion to, amend the contract.
All right, not hearing a second?
Okay.
All right.
All right, I'll move that we adopt option 3.
Second.
Okay. All right, so we have option 3 on the table. We have a second, first by Supervisor Campbell, a second by Supervisor Griefer. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, abstaining. All right, passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
On to the next.
I know that we have a number of folks in the audience for item 10. We did mention this at the beginning of the meeting. We have a 10 a.m. appointment, and we've had some of the Visit Tuolumne folks here waiting to present. So I'd like to do the 10 a.m. Visit Tuolumne report to the board as our appointment, and then go into item 10 just for clarification. So with that, if we can get set up for our 10 a.m. appointment, if the clerk can read the item.
10 a.m. presentation of the 2024-2025 annual report by Visit Tuolumne County.
Is this on? Yes, okay. Good morning, supervisors. Thank you for letting us have this time today to present to you our annual report. This year, I think you're going to be happy to hear we're doing things a little differently. Back in July, we actually sent you our annual report, 73 pages. Some pages only had one word on it, just for clarification. But rather than coming here and just reciting that back to you, we're going to do something a little different and start with a video that we would like to share with you. All right. Well, I did a really bad job of introducing myself and who I'm up here with. I'm Lisa Mayo. I'm the president and CEO for Visit Tuolumne County, and helping me present today is Jen Lopez, our marketing manager, and Amariah Richards is in the audience. She is our business development manager. In the tourism industry, it's really great because we get to experience our destination through the eyes of our travelers, very much like we just saw in this video. We're constantly reminded how fortunate we are to get to live and work in a place where people come for their vacations. Tourism has been a prime economic driver for Tuolumne County for decades. In fact, the Sierra Railway Company back in 1897, not only did they bring freight and mining supplies to the area, but they also brought passengers who became some of our first visitors at Railtown, what is now Railtown 1897 State Historic Park. Our role as a DMO, or destination marketing organization, is to inspire visitation to Tuolumne County to help sustain and enhance Tuolumne County's vital visitor economy. I thought it would be great just to show you the TOT history at a glance, transient occupancy tax that is collected at our local lodging and campgrounds. This is about a 10-year look back at TOT, and you can see the growth of it. The blue line represents how much goes into the general fund for the county, and then the orange is how much TOT is reinvested into Visit Tuolumne County for marketing purposes, with the idea of making that blue line go up every year. This is pretty healthy growth if you look at this chart. The more TOT that is generated through our lodging industry, the more funding is available for essential services like the sheriff, fire, roads, and also libraries and recreation, just to name a few. I and my staff all live in Tuolumne County. In fact, some of us grew up here, and we too want to see these agencies and our communities thrive. With tourism comes not only the TOT dollars, which are very important, but also travel spending dollars. In 2024, we're looking at nearly $308 million spent in Tuolumne County from travelers. This provides about $12 million in local tax receipts and provides 2,700 jobs. When we talk about these numbers, this does not take into account our casino resorts, of which we have 2 that are thriving. Travel spending sustains local businesses and employment, not to mention it sustains our favorite restaurants, shops, and activities that we like to take part in that otherwise may not be able to exist without tourist dollars. Taxes that visitors paid in 2024 were equal to over $1,000 per Tuolumne County household. And one of the things that I really think is really important, and we don't say it enough, but is that TOT and travel spending is new dollars brought into Tuolumne County. This is why it's so important that we continue to invite people here. And speaking of employment, we talked about those 2,700 people that are employed in tourism, plus several more at the casinos. And this year we wanted to recognize these people. A lot of times the industry doesn't get a lot of recognition, and there are people in it that work so hard. They might provide a unique product to our visitors that you can only get in Tuolumne County. They provide above and beyond hospitality that makes people want to come back time and time again. And again, leaving those really important dollars behind. They advocate for destination development like trail building, and they have an overall passion for Tuolumne County like we all do in this room. So this year, for the first time, we had the Tourism Industry Awards that we presented at our annual Tourism Summit, and happy to share with you the winners of these awards. We actually had a tie for the Frontline Hospitality Champion Award, and they both happened to be at the 2 different casinos, Cara Morati with Chicken Ranch Casino Resort and Tim Lopez with Black Oak Casino Resort. And the Spirit of Tuolumne County Award went to Teresa Torbett, who owns the Columbia Mercantile 1855, and Tourism Advocacy Award went to Dwight Folian with Groveland Trailheads. I want to thank Supervisor Griefer for coming to our summit and helping pass out those awards. It was really fun to do that, and we're looking forward to doing that again next year. And also those beautiful awards you saw were designed locally by Sabre Design out of Groveland. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jen, who is going to throw a few numbers at you, but it'll be cool.
All right, good morning. So I'll just start by saying I'm going to go over a few highlights of the fiscal year, the 2024-25 fiscal year here, but also talk about a little bit of what's happening currently and looking ahead a little bit as well. But I will go ahead and start with the visitation numbers for that fiscal year. So during the year, we saw 1.6 million unique visitors come into Tuolumne County. These visitors came from origins that are over 50 miles away. And with that 1.6 million unique visitors, 6 million visits occurred. So many people came back repeatedly, which is great to see. We love to see that. Seeing such a strong visitation is exciting, and it shows that travelers are looking for exactly what Tuolumne County offers. To keep that interest and visitation growing, we continue to invest our strategic and innovative tactics, reaching travelers where they're making decisions in real time. And we look forward to showing you some of our most recent programs in the coming months. But they have just gotten started, so we'll give them some time. But here, like I said, are a few of the highlights for the year. So very impressive, our in-state digital campaign, which reaches on social media, through search, on video, and display ads. These ran throughout the year. We invested $217,200 in these through our previous advertising agency. And these resulted in 5,000 in-market visits, with 4,900 of those visits being to lodging properties. If each of these hotel visits were just one-night stays, it would generate approximately $1.6 million spent on lodging per month, which equates to about $132,000 a month in TOT, or 1.6, nearly 1.6 in TOT per year. Another great program that we have been investing in and drives a lot of visitation overnight stays are our Google Max performance campaigns. Google Performance Max, rather, these are ads that Google serves up on all of its platforms, whether it's search, mail, YouTube, all of the things Google these show up on, and these perform very well. In May through October 2024, we were hearing from our lodging properties that bookings were down for the upcoming summer. So we went into action and partnered with what is now our advertising agency, Madden Media, to launch these campaigns. From just these few months and the $25,000 investment, the bookings that we saw were approximately 592, with an estimated ROI of $330,000 of in-market lodging revenue, which equates to almost $40,000 in TOT. This isn't taking into account this campaign and the in-state digital that I just showed you, that these people are not only coming, these visitors are not only coming and spending the night in the hotels and spending their money there, they're going out and dining and participating in activities and shopping and pumping more money into our local economy. I will go back and mention just Madden Media, our current advertising agency. They did take a look at these results from the Google Performance Max campaign, and because it did so well, they used it as a case study, and they also use it to promote that program. And while Google Performance Max helps us efficiently capture high intent travelers here in the U.S., it's equally important that we maintain visibility abroad, especially among high-value international visitors. And this is where our partnerships with our international agencies come in, including Black Diamond, which is the agency that we have been with the longest of time. It's also the international UK-Ireland agency of record for Visit California as well. But In the 24-25 fiscal year, we invested $25,000 in this agency for public relations. And from that, we saw a reach of 13 million readers with an estimated ad value of just over $425,000. So if we were going to go out and pay for these placements, that's about how much that would cost. A shining example of one of these articles or a journalist that captured Tuolumne County very well, Nicola Brady, who works for the Irish Independent online and print features. Her feature reached 3.5 million people and with an estimated ad value of $91,155. So as you can see with this $425,000 here, the $25,000 that we invested in Black Diamond went quite a ways. We continue to maintain our Visit California partnership, and through that, we attend Visit California media events. We do advertising placements in the California Visitors Guide and California Road Trips magazine. We participate in display advertising co-ops. We also spend some money on dedicated emails, which they send out to their entire database, which is 200,000 potential visitors. We do that about twice a year. So these are emails that are dedicated completely to Tuolumne County that are sent out to their subscribers. We also have leadership representation with Visit California, while Lisa serves on multiple Visit California committees. Through these activities, Visit Tuolumne County remains top of mind and as a viable partner for new opportunities and access to high-value marketing channels, statewide visibility, and collaborative opportunities that would be cost prohibitive on our own. One of these opportunities was a recent influencer campaign about hidden gems in California. We're going to take a minute. We're spinning. So in last May, Visit California brought several major influencers to spotlight lesser-known destinations in California that included Tuolumne County. The influencer who came to visit us, his name is Alex Kachagian, and I would love to show you what his campaigns looked like, but we're a little frozen here, unfortunately. But during his visit, he featured Columbia, Donnell Vista, which was a favorite of his, Firefall Ranch, and Sonora. And the engagements for all his posts, reels, and stories continue to grow, extending our visibility well beyond his visit. And his numbers were quite impressive. Oh, thank you. Okay. I'll go on. But his numbers were quite impressive. He has hundreds of thousands of followers, and these campaigns that he did perform very, very well. In our annual report that is online, you can see some of those results. Okay. All right, there we go. Oh, it doesn't like that slide. Okay, so I'll go on. So another one of these opportunities through Visit California that was presented to us was the Perfect Day in Tuolumne County, the video that you just saw at the beginning of our presentation. And this video is featured on Visit California's statewide social media channels. It is also available for our own marketing efforts. And the Tuolumne County video in that series, The Perfect Day, was the top performing video in the entire Perfect Day email series based on click performance. So we're pretty proud of that. That's where we No, that went back to the beginning. It's wonderful to see Tuolumne County featured in such great high-performing statewide videos, but we're not new to the film game. And Tuolumne County has been in the spotlight for decades. Visit Tuolumne County also houses the Tuolumne County Film Commission, perpetuating a film legacy dating back to the 1920s, with more than 350 productions shot here in Tuolumne County. Notable production anniversaries for the 24-25 year were Back to the Future 3 with the 35th anniversary, and Little House on the Prairie with the 50th anniversary. This fiscal year, 7 film permits were issued, including one for a Rivian commercial. So speaking of legacy, the Visit Tuolumne County team proudly served on the 175th anniversary of Tuolumne County Committee alongside Supervisor Griefer, community partners, and local organizations. Our role with that was coordinating the design of the official 175th logo, which was not only did we have the original logo, but it was also kind of redesigned by other organizations to kind of match their own areas. For example, the Groveland, Yosemite, Highway 120, Chamber of Commerce put their little historic jail on there. Railtown and the California State Railroad Foundation, they put a number 3 on there. So there was different variations of this logo, which was really, really awesome to see, all these specialized logos. And now they are for sale as ornaments, 3D wooden ornaments, also created by Sabre Design out of Groveland. And we do have those available in the Visitor Center.
If the PowerPoint's not working, I think we're okay to just have
Okay.
the email out.
Okay. So as we reflect on Tuolumne County's 175-year legacy and centuries of culture, it's equally important to spotlight the individuals who protected and served our community. Just a couple of months ago, we launched the Tuolumne County Veterans Memorial Trail. This is a mobile passport. We have other ones, the Craft Burger Trail, Craft Beverage Trail, the Sonora Selfie Trail. And this is a platform where visitors and residents can follow the trail on their phone, learn the stories behind each location. There are 9 locations on the trail, including the Twain Harte Women's Veterans Memorial, which is the only Veterans Memorial in California that's dedicated solely to women. So very special for us. The 9/11 Global War on Terror Memorial, the museum here across the street. So several locations where participants can go and have meaningful reflection. So this not only provides a new tourism experience, but also deepens our community engagement and pride. And this trail was just featured on Cody Stark's Cody's Caravan, which is a segment of Good Day Sacramento, rather, and that took place last Veterans Day. Last Tuesday, he was around. He went to a handful of the locations, did live segments and interviews with individuals who you may know, Frank Smart, Christina Wilkinson, and others. Thank you. So speaking of TV, a few weeks ago, we were excited to welcome a camera crew or a crew from NBC Bay Area to Tuolumne County to film an upcoming California Live segment for NBC Bay Area. The crew visited multiple locations throughout the county, and for this quick 2-minute, 30-second segment, they squeezed in Sonora, Twain Harte, Miwok Village, Columbia, and Jamestown, and locations within. The objectives of this project was to increase awareness and drive fall visitation and early winter visitation, rather. Reach drive market audience to inspire last-minute road trips, showcase our 3 vacations in one incredible destination, messaging, drive qualified traffic back to our website, and inspire overnight stays. There is also a commercial running through certain newscasts and through also today in the mornings on that station. So while we maintain and continue to build strong visibility in the Bay Area through opportunities like this NBC segment, our marketing strategy is evolving to follow the data. And that data shows that visitors who stay longer and spend more are coming from Southern California. So we do have a chart. We can send it to you later. So on this chart, it has our major markets, our top 5 markets on there based on visitation. So the top of the list there is Sacramento and San Francisco. However, those visitors, although they are very, very important, they're only staying about 1.5 days in our destination, where down at the number 5 is Los Angeles with less visitors. However, they're staying over 5 nights. So definitely spending more money on lodging, probably spending more money on activities, food, dining, and other ways to increase the tourism economy. So we're going to be shifting some of our dollars or reallocating some of our dollars to marketing more in that area to bring more of the LA market up here to spend time.
And if anybody's curious what we're looking at, I know we're having some technical issues with the slideshow. This is attached to the agenda. You can find the agenda on the county website. So if you pull that up, the blue lines, those are links to a lot of these documents, including this report, so you can follow along.
Thank you. And as we refine our marketing investments to focus on high-value visitors, we are also strengthening the digital tools that help us serve those visitors more efficiently. One of the biggest enhancements that we brought on this year was introducing a chatbot onto our website. Right now, it is just called Tuolumne AI, but there are plans to have a name, a special name for it. But it lives on our page, and it is just like you see on other websites. It is there to provide 24/7 service, answer questions instantly about directions, lodging, attractions, and events in our area. This chatbot speaks in over 90 languages, which is pretty cool. It pulls data directly from our website, ensuring accuracy. It helps users plan trips and discover experiences tailored to their interests. It collects data on our visitor needs, helping us guide our future marketing, partner initiatives, and also website improvements. And I just want to add one thing about, it wasn't in the presentation, but something about our website that I just wanted to call attention to. In this fiscal year, our website got 685,000 sessions. And through those sessions, we handed off or had referrals 68,500 times to our partners. So essentially visitors are coming to our website, they're exploring around, and then they're clicking the Hotel Lumberjacks link on our website. So we are essentially handing these potential visitors off to the next step in their planning process. So enhancing our digital tools like this multilingual chatbot is especially important because it supports one of our highest value visitor segments, international travelers. International visitation matters because, as we've talked about before, the travelers stay longer, spend significantly more per trip, and often explore multiple regions during their visit. They help stabilize our economy during off-peak seasons and bring new revenue into the communities. Although they are very important, we currently have some circumstances that are influencing travelers to go look elsewhere. However, the outlook is optimistic. When reported in May, research company Tourism Economics projected a 0.7% decline in visitation to California for 2025. This is due to weak global sentiment toward the U.S., policy and border entry frictions such as visa changes and perceived unpredictability. Also, a strong U.S. dollar making the U.S. relatively more expensive for more international visitors. So, although the updated October forecast shows a 0.8% year-over-year increase for international travel to California, signaling a stronger than expected performance compared to reporting earlier in the spring, we are shifting some emphasis away from broad international marketing for the coming year. By doing so, we can invest more in California markets, by far our foundation, to see stronger, more certain returns for now, domestic and regional, while still keeping some international presence with our agencies in the UK, Ireland, Germany, and France. This strategy ensures we stay visible globally while optimizing our resources for the strongest ROI. I'll bring it back home now with a local campaign. A key focus this coming year is increasing local resident and awareness and demonstrating the value of tourism within our community. Tourism is often misunderstood and sometimes seen only through the lens of traffic and busy weekends. By communicating its true value, we can help residents see the tourism benefits everyone, not just a few businesses. This understanding is especially important as we look toward the future. Demonstrating the return on investment strengthens transparency, builds community support, and helps us secure sustainable funding. In short, helping our community understand the impact of tourism means a stronger local economy, funding for essential public services, support for small businesses, more jobs, and career pathways, a higher quality of life for residents, and more resilient future for Tuolumne County. Tourism isn't just a visitor activity, it's a vital part of who we are and how we thrive. And as we build our local understanding of tourism's importance, it's validating to see that this same perspective is now reflected on the national level as well. The Department of the Interior has formally acknowledged the vital role that gateway communities play, which Lisa will talk about.
Thought you were stealing my thunder. Thanks, Jen. I do want to just mention in June of this year, the Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum, signed Secretarial Order 3434, which is strengthening coordination with gateway communities, and this is in relation to working with federal lands, such as Yosemite. I'm just going to read the section 1, which is the purpose. This order establishes the Department of the Interior policy to enhance coordination and strengthen partnerships with gateway communities. These communities play a vital role in visitor management, conservation outcomes, and supporting the economic vitality surrounding public lands. Through this order, the department commits to deepening collaborative planning, meaningful engagement, and shared stewardship with gateway communities. This is a massive step forward for recognizing the role that gateway communities have in not just bringing visitors to our area and to our national parks, but also in finding creative and sustainable ways for how visitors actually use the park. Moving forward, we're very excited to have a seat at the table and work in collaboration with the national park and our community partners. I want to give a shout out to my very good friend and colleague, Rhonda Salisbury. Some of you know her, with Visit Yosemite Madera, who's been a long time advocate of this type of relationship between the gateways and the national park. And by the way, I'm happy to say this collaboration is already well underway. And speaking of Visit Yosemite Madera, I just also want to note that there's a lot of competition out there. Visitors have a million choices of where they want to go. And it's important that we consistently are inviting visitors to our destination. As I've said before, and I'll probably say it 100 times again, even Disneyland has to consistently advertise to gain new visitors and also to keep visitors coming back. So with that, I just want to thank you for your continued support of Visit Tuolumne County and of the hospitality and tourism industry. Are there any questions or comments?
Well, Jen, Lisa, thank you both for your work and for presenting. You heard it here first. Chatbot should be named Tommy Tuolumne. I'm going to trademark that, bring it back to the board for any comments or questions. Supervisor Kirk.
Just based on that, the comment about the gateway communities, I think it was 2-3 years ago, we had a lot of folks get in front of the board and come up with an alternative plan for visiting Yosemite. You know, there's different, a better plan than what the feds were coming up with. So I hear that you guys are talking about the future of that. Are those same partners at those meetings that you're discussing? Because I love, the order 3434, but I'm curious, instead of it just being words, like what is the plan to actually make better plans happen so the feds don't come in and screw off these gateway communities the way they have in the past?
There was a meeting scheduled for October 1st and then a shutdown happened, and so that didn't happen. That has been rescheduled for this week with the different gateway partners. Okay. And I believe it was and Supervisor Griefer can correct me, but the counties that were deciding who was going to be part of those meetings, or was it
it's collaborative, yeah. I think we discussed, since I'm on that group. It's supposed to, our next meeting is supposed to be on Thursday, which is going to be a little conflict for us. But yeah, so it was collaborative between all of the different organizations that had shown interest, the ones that the new players are at the table. And I will say, to Lisa's point, the park is very interested in being a strong partner with all of us now. So the new superintendent, Ray
McFadden,
thank you, is very interested in making sure that we're having these discussions as well.
Cool, and that's good. But my understanding is a few years ago, we actually had some really good plans that we could have implemented. So are those plans being reintroduced?
Yeah, I think one of the plans you're probably referring to is one that Lee Zimmerman came up with, and
There's a lot of ideas, yeah.
there was a lot,
I
and
think
he,
maybe it was Lee.
Yeah, and he is on that.
Okay.
He does attend those meetings and is very much involved. I do feel very different about it now that things really will happen because we are actually feeling very much listened to. And I think that's great. And this superintendent has been very great with communication and including us.
Okay. Yeah, there's been a complete turnaround with folks, federal level, but even at the U.S. Forest Service, the conversations that we're having now are just all of a sudden perked up. It's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's great. I think the only question I had, Lisa, I was doing some research while you guys were talking. I know Rush Creek, I was looking at the TOT history. Rush Creek came in 2016, Firefall 2024. Wander Yosemite, that's going to be next year, right? Do you just off the top of your head know of any of the developments on the 120 corridor when they came into being, other than Rush Creek, Firefall, Under Canvas, which still isn't? Actually, Under Canvas came in May this year, right?
No, they'll be starting up in April of 2026.
Sorry, I got the wrong. Okay, 2026. Are there any others that I'm missing? Or Liz? Is Liz up to? No.
Under Canvas,
Terra Vive, yeah.
Terra V, the tiny homes.
Of the ones that have opened, it's Firefall and Rush Creek, in the last 10 years or so, yeah.
Okay, and then when's Terra Vive? Still no hard date?
Yeah, it's
Spring.
not next spring, maybe perhaps the one after that. I think they are starting to do some work, I believe.
Yes.
So potentially in the next 2 years, we could have
Yeah.
3 more.
Just a short 9-year
And then
project.
there's 1,000 Trails as well, and Yonder Yosemite you mentioned.
Okay.
So
thank
4.
you. Are we doing comments too, or are we just doing questions?
I think both.
I'll just leave my comments here, which are thank you guys for the in-depth report. Thanks for emailing me back those questions I had of you. And I always, you summed it up well. I tell people this all the time. I go to bat for Visit Tuolumne because we are next to Yosemite. If we were Amador County, it would be a different story. We'd still need you guys, but we are competing for those international tourists, and it makes a difference. And years ago when I became a board member, I spent way too many hours dissecting the organization and figuring out what the proper amount of funding was. And I did the KGAR study, and at the end of the day, you guys do hold your value. And so I appreciate what you guys do. And, part of my hope with the TOT conversation that we're having is to make the pendulum not swing so much with you guys with your budget, but you can slowly and progressively plan and have a stable budget instead of having things swing. So I'm sure we'll be in touch more with that funding, but thank you guys for what you do.
Thank you.
Supervisor Griefer?
Thank you. So I sit on the VTC board. I appreciate all of the hard work. I've been a big supporter of the organization long before I was a supervisor, so we will continue to keep banging that drum. To Supervisor Kirk, your point, when they're successful, they get more money. When they're not successful, when things are, so sometimes they're not in charge of their own destiny. So, when COVID hit, I'm sure that was a big, and then some of the things, the geopolitical and political issues that you referenced earlier, does have impact. But, the work that they do, the turnaround that we get out of that is amazing. I was at the award ceremony, just hearing everybody talk from just not locally, but from states like Texas and the other states that were there. Everybody wants to come to California. They love it here. We are the Golden State for a reason, and we will continue. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I'm quite territorial, so if we can make sure that Madera is number 2 always, I will be happy. But I will get yelled at later by Madera, but that's okay. And to that point, some of the information that was not in your presentation was the casinos, because they're a private government, right? Mm-hmm. So we do get a lot of them. I know a lot of people will drive up, stay at Black Oak because they have the great campground, and then they'll come up to Yosemite or what have you. So it's not just a an us versus them. It's a very good, strong, collaborative, and you really don't realize how big and effective that machine is of getting our word and our product out until you have these presentations. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. You know, I continue to be a reliable stick in the mud for the value you provide. And similar, I've gone through the data, been through your presentations, and it's fantastic. The click-through rate, the impressions you get, the attention you bring to our county is so critical. We are not the Yosemite Valley floor inherently, and we are the #1 traveled corridor and very reliant on this. And I think that is not by accident that this has grown so much over time. A lot of people ask, why do we put so much money of the amount of TOT generated? It's because when we've put money in and seen these campaigns, they come back with a very strong return on investment, which feeds all the other programs. And, you know, the overused phrase, but as the goose that lays the golden egg, Visit Tuolumne in your work does a really good and needed job, and it provides a public value that far exceeds the cost. So I really greatly appreciate that. I know one thing for District 5 in particular, we do focus a lot on lodging. District 5, though very tourism reliant, has a limited amount of lodging. And so I would be interested, though this is not explicit in the contract, but helping to see other opportunities to bring lodging in to support day trippers and specific Spanish language audiences as we're developing the Cinco de Mayo history and a lot of the Mexican history of the area before pre-statehood. That is something that I know Columbia in particular is trying to rally behind. We have a lot of folks in the valley that I think would love to come up. They don't always go for the hotel because they are under sub 50 miles. So I know we're tracking the over 50 miles on that, but it'd be great to see those campaigns in the future. And I know you've been targeting, I think, Mexican national audiences south of the border as well for international tourism, which is great. So, all right. With that, Council, do we do, I don't believe for a presentation only, we need to have public comment on that, correct? Okay. All right. Well, with that, thank you. Appreciate it. I want to get into, we're at 11:30 right now, and I appreciate everybody's patience. We'll move into item number 10. The clerk can please read the item while we set up. It's a report only.
Item number 10, presentation, discussion, and board direction on future operations of the sanctioned camping program located at...
Sorry to interrupt. So we're not doing public comments on, I can't recall a time we've ever had a presentation that was agendized where we didn't have public comment. So that's just my.
Not take, because you don't have to receive comment before any action, since you're not taking any action on it. But if you want to have public comment, that's always available to you.
I mean, I'll defer to the chair, but I'm just saying that whether it's Brown Act or not, that has been our practice. I can't recall an agendized item that didn't have public comment, so.
I'm willing to reopen it if we can just do a quick audience participation. Were there members of the audience that wanted to comment specifically on our 10 a.m. appointment? We do have one, we have two. Okay, I'd be fine with reopening it. And
I didn't mean to.
so with that, we'll reopen our 10 a.m. appointment. Briefly, we'll do public comment on that. Any members of the public who would like to speak, please come forward and you'll have 3 minutes. Welcome back.
Morning. The presentation covered about $400,000 to $500,000 worth of expenses. What happened to the other $1 million? I'd like to see an audit of where every dollar's going to see if we need to provide more money or less money. As well as the casinos, that does not provide any TOT, so I don't see why we're marketing for it. Might be taking money away from TOT actually, so it might be another thing to consider. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I recommend while we do have Visit Tuolumne here, I believe you have budgets and links that you might be able to get access to. Welcome back.
So just to speak on Camp Justice, really have to have Camp Justice. Or
And this isn't on the Camp Justice
Oh,
item
okay,
yet.
sorry.
This is, we reopened. That's not on you, that's on us. It's a little unconventional. Again, we're on our 10 a.m. appointment. This was the Visit Tuolumne presentation. Do we have any additional public comment? Going once, going twice? Sure. But please come up. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. Our annual report is on our website, and it is very comprehensive, and so anyone can go and check that out at any time. And if someone would like to see our budget, we are happy to share that. Just come on down to our office, or call me, or whatever. We're happy to share all that. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, seeing no further public comment on appointment 10 a.m., we'll close that appointment and move on to item 10. The clerk can resume reading item 10.
Item number 10, presentation, discussion, and board direction on future operations of the sanctioned camping program located at Justice Center Drive, Sonora, California.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Well, you never left. You've been there. You guys have been there the whole time.
All right. Well, good morning. Annie Hockett, Health and Human Services Agency Director, along with Michelle Clark, Assistant Director. We do have a couple others in the room that may speak or be called upon for questions. We have William Vanderheiden, who is our supervisor in the Department of Social Services, Tammy Mariscal, our Behavioral Health Director, and then a number of representatives from the Homeless Services Committee. So thank you guys all for being here. We are going to talk about the sanctioned camping program, better known as Camp Justice. What we aim to do is to give just a very quick update on program operations. We'll talk about expenditures to date, and then we are seeking board direction on 5 specific areas. Those areas are going to include, should we continue the camp past the current December 31st end date? Second question, would the board like us to continue to seek additional funding for long-term operations? Question 3, should we restrict recreational vehicles at the site? Number 4, what should the cleaning and clearing frequency of the site be? And lastly, should we limit how long an individual can stay at the site? We recognize that we have been before this board a lot lately with this topic, and so we are going to try to keep our presentation brief and very targeted, but certainly able to answer questions along the way.
And not to interrupt, just to clarify, you mentioned 5 topics there on the document we've got. It's got 4 recommendations as well. So anybody who may be reading this, the 5th one again was?
Yeah, I do have that at the end, a visual to really kind of keep us on track. And so there's kind of 2 in 1 in the board memo. But so I apologize if that created confusion. Okay, so let's get started. We wanted to start by just kind of orienting and level setting where we've been with this project. So this is just a very brief timeline of where we have been with Camp Justice. As this board is aware, the program itself was funded almost exclusively by the Encampment Resolution Fund grant, or ERF. That grant was awarded to Tuolumne County back in September of 2023. In March of 2024, the board approved 2 kind of critical local ordinances that were kind of connected to the creation of Camp Justice. Those included the Clean and Clear and the Critical Infrastructure Ordinance. And this board and the community may remember at the time, we were operating under the Boise decision, which essentially prevented us from being able to remove people from illegal encampments unless we had a location for them to go. And so that was the crux of why Camp Justice was developed. We wanted to give our law enforcement partners and our code enforcement officers the opportunity to kind of address the illegal encampments that we were all very concerned about. So we got approval to run this as a 1-year pilot program. We officially started in July of 2024. And then we came back to your board in late spring to request that that be extended beyond the 1 year. And your board approved us to run through the end of this calendar year. So you can see where we're kind of at today, and I will remind the board that currently the ERF grant is set to expire in September of 2026. So that is the timeline we are working with that specific funding. So just quickly, this is an updated slide to talk about how many we have served at the camp since we began collecting data. You can see a total of 177 unduplicated clients have at least signed a rule list with William and his team. We know that the population is very fluid, and so likely there's been more than 177. Of those that we have worked with, we have been able to transition 49 into a more appropriate setting, and you can see that broken down there. And then we've trespassed a total of 26 individuals for various rule violations. Right now, we are averaging about 50 at the camp, and we have 12 RVs. I will add that since the last time we presented to this board, we did add some perimeter fencing. So the board may recall that there was challenges with making sure that folks were camping within the designated boundaries. And so we were able to add some perimeter fencing to the back side of the footprint to allow us to make sure that people are staying where they need to stay. What you see here is essentially kind of the funding that we have had to work with. As I mentioned, primarily the encampment resolution grant is what we have used. The original amount that we asked for in that grant application was $125,000. We did get a small grant for $20,000. That was what allowed us to connect water to the site. And then at one point when we presented to the board, we did get your permission to seek a budget modification to move $75,000 from a different category of the IRF grant into ongoing operations. And so if we look at that total, that's kind of the total amount we have been working with. Expenditures to date is right around $185,000, leaving that remaining amount of $35,000. We did want to collect kind of an estimated cost of what it is costing monthly to run the program. This is hard to kind of pinpoint because, sometimes we have more expenses one month than others. Invoices may be delayed. So this was our best attempt in looking at what is posted to kind of figure out what approximately we're spending per month in those categories. So you can see that broken down by water. Our facilities team, if they have to respond out there, obviously they bill to the grant. We have work release that helps primarily with cleaning days. And then you will see a pretty significant amount under the toilets. So one thing that has changed since we presented last to your board is we experienced just a lot of difficulty with the toilets being just overrun. So much waste that people could not use them. We had the vendor that services the toilet saying, we cannot continue to work with you if you guys don't do something about it. So we did have to change the frequency of the cleaning of the porta potties from twice a week to 5 days a week currently. We do anticipate if the RVs were to go somewhere else that may be able to be reduced because we do know that people with the RVs are dumping their waste into the porta potty. So if we look at that amount, we have approximately 5 months worth of ERF funding remaining.
Okay. While we're on that, can I just ask, because I was going to ask about that, 5450 seems like a huge amount for that. I know that we're trying to keep the costs down. I know that some of the other facilities I've seen in other counties use the kind of trailer-based or more hardened type metal toilet and bathroom temporary situation. Are we kind of deploying the wrong technology in a plastic, fragile kind of porta potty as opposed to, have we looked at other options for that?
I don't know. I would have to probably look to our facilities team they were really the ones that set that up initially. I will say
Can I jump in real quick?
Sure.
What she didn't tell you is that the reason it's so expensive is because the people in the RVs are overflowing the toilets, which is causing an environmental issue, and what can't go into the toilets is being dumped into the dumpsters. So that's where this amount is coming from. So I just will make sure that we're painting, unfortunately, a gruesome picture of exactly why we're paying so much more in this. So it's not an issue of where the waste is going; it's how much is being deposited, which is causing the larger problem.
And I'll add, additionally, we've been hit with some charges because individuals are throwing trash and adult briefs into the porta potties. And so that requires an additional charge for the vendor to kind of fish out those adult briefs in particular. I'm sorry to be graphic. And so we are working with the individuals that require that to make sure that they're disposing that in a different way. So we're not facing that additional charge. Okay, moving along. So this is essentially the 5 bullet points that I mentioned that we are seeking recommendation on, and I will forward, I tried to kind of keep this organized, and I know these are typical conversations, and so my vision was to kind of go through these areas and then actually kind of map out where you guys sit with these different decision points. So if that works for the board, I'd be happy to kind of in real time update this, but I'll walk you through kind of the logistics of each bullet. So the first recommendation, again, is to continue the camp through the end of the ERF grant, which is slated to be September 2026 or until the funds are fully expended. Recognizing that there could be unanticipated costs, we have had a few issues where we've had to tow vehicles that could hit our kind of bottom line budget. So I'm giving the estimate that we may be able to get through 2026, but that may be sooner if the funds are fully expended before that time. So we are recommending that the board allow us to continue operations. Our second request is that we be allowed to continue to seek additional funding for like long-term operation. Assuming that's the board request, we would be looking at probably some additional funding that gives us full flexibility in how we can run the program. I'm happy to speak to that in more detail, but some of the IRF requirements do restrict our ability a little bit, and so we'd be looking at ways to just have a little bit more control of the site. We could also request another budget modification through ERF and move funding into the sanctioned camping bucket. I'm happy to entertain that. And then, I think I've been clear with this board all along that we really do feel like long-term having a community-based organization do the case management in particular is the right way to go. It's definitely challenging, and William has been able to really articulate the difficulty of kind of being, like, for lack of a better term, in charge of the site, even though the site is not a managed site. Having to kind of be that rule enforcer, but also the person to engage in services. And so could we really restructure it so some of the community-based organizations that are active at the site that want to be working with this population and are skilled at it could potentially step into that space and we could support. Third recommendation, we are recommending that the recreational vehicles be prohibited from the site. I think I've expressed to this board just the numerous challenges that we have. When the site was originally envisioned, we did have 9 spots. It has been really difficult to keep it at 9 because, again, it's not a managed site. People can pull in at all hours of the night. The biggest concern, though, is certainly the waste. So I mentioned about the issue with the porta potties. We've also seen people that have dug trenches to drain probably their gray water. We're hoping it's the gray water only, but that is going directly into the soil. And then we have had reports and evidence that people are also dumping their black water tanks into the dumpster, which has caused some challenges with waste management to continue servicing the site. The RVs also, I feel like I've spoken of this, but have been certainly difficult to deal with on the cleaning days because most of the vehicles out there do not have a vehicle with it. And so we are having to kind of work with the individual to identify someone to come in, remove the trailers, pull them back. And so it's really difficult because they're not mobile without support. And then I mentioned briefly, we are concerned about the potential cost of somebody just abandoning the trailer out there. We had law enforcement maybe 6 or 8 months ago kind of go through, and I think there was only one that was actually registered to the individual that was living there. All the others are not registered and were originally owned by someone else, so it makes that difficult. And I know I'm going fast, but I'm trying to keep us on point. The next is a discussion about the cleaning and clearing frequency. This was something we definitely talked about in previous presentations. It started with weekly. We reduced it to once a month. Listening to some of the concerns, we did recommend that maybe we increase that to twice a month just to really make sure that we are maintaining control of the trash, and we were encountering folks that would essentially refuse to move. And then if they did that a number of times, they could, in theory, not move for 3 months in a row. And then we would obviously get involved and deal with that. But that was the recommendation that came out of the Homeless Service Committee Work Group. That recommendation was brought to the full committee last week, and that committee is recommending that it remain at one time a month. And then lastly, we do recommend that we limit the program to 120 days. We have, the original wording of the rules was the site is not intended for long-term stay, but we really didn't have any way to make sure that people were motivated to kind of look for alternatives. And I will say that there are people that absolutely are motivated and they show up and they get the services and they're able to move on. And you see that reflected in the data. And then there's also others that maybe are not as motivated or not ready to make that change. And so the recommendation is to limit the program to 120 days. So that was a lot. Like I said, I tried to kind of condense this into some easy decision-making for you all in order of districts. So I didn't pick a favorite of who got to go first, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful, thank you. We bring it back for questions. It is 11:46. Just in mindful of our lunch break for our staff, maybe we do questions, then public comment, and see how much time we have to be able to go through with our direction. Fine with everybody? Okay, so with that, we'll begin with any questions. If there's no questions, I can move to
I got
public
a
comment.
really quick question on, I like the idea of the RV thing. And I know it was being abused, but what if, was there any consideration for maybe somebody staying in an RV for like a very short amount of time, for like 4 weeks if they truly needed services? Not, because I know people are going there and parking it and living out of there like it's a free rent. But what if somebody really is on a hard time, at least has an RV and is looking for permanent housing? Do you see does that exist at all out there, or is it all basically RV being abused?
I mean, I think we've seen that. It's been in the rarity. Most that have shown up with an RVs have stayed long-term.
Okay, then scratch that idea.
And I would say that the site itself just doesn't have the infrastructure to deal with the dumping.
Okay.
We have made sure people know that there's companies that can come out and dump their tanks for them, but I don't think many have opted for that.
Okay. I was just interested, if you have several who are trying to get into permanent housing and the RVs are all they had, I would give them a shorter leash, but if that's not the case very often, then we'll forget that idea. That's my only question right now.
Okay. Supervisor Campbell.
So, yeah, thank you, Chair. So what's the reason for the difference in the once a month versus twice a month for the cleaning frequency? So what happens with the cleaning? Why are you seeing it as necessary twice a month to do that?
Well, I think we were definitely seeing those folks that would refuse to move on cleaning day and then potentially not move for long periods of time when the cleaning day was only happening once a month. So if it's July 1st and it's cleaning day and I refuse to move, and then I refuse to move in August, people could potentially stay there for a long time, which was never the intent, to make sure that we can manage the trash and the items that become accumulated at a site. And then we also just really, struggled to, again, deal with the RVs. And so that was initially why we went to the less frequent cleaning. But the more frequent potentially could help negate some of the trash accumulation and folks staying for long periods of time in the same location.
I'm understanding. So without the RVs there, you feel that more frequent cleaning would be necessary?
I feel like we can accommodate more frequent cleaning without the RVs because the amount of workload required to manage the RVs is going to be less. And so we would be able to have more frequent contact. I will say that really wasn't the desire of the larger Homeless Services Committee. That group really feels like once a month is appropriate. It's meeting the needs of the individuals out there. We did talk within the work group about whether, because essentially right now, if someone has 3 violations, it's kind of the 3 strikes rule if they're serious violations or moderate violations. And so we did talk, would we reduce that if we kept the cleaning frequency more long? And then so if I then refuse to move twice, would that necessitate us to have to take action versus right now I can refuse to move 3 times and nothing will happen?
I mean, why can't we just say if you don't move, then you're gonna have to leave on the first time?
We are,
Rather than inconvenience all the other people who are complying with the rules, making them move. You know,
that
twice
would be challenging to
monthly.
enforce under the Housing First model, I would say, because we really need to show due diligence that we're giving people ample opportunity. And so I think once a month may be a challenge in that.
It just feels like you're making the people that are complying with the rules pay for the minority that are not.
Yeah, I would say we did though see, I'll give an example. We had someone come up with a specific reason why they couldn't move. And then the next time we moved, we had a few others say, oh, well, that now applies to me. So we really were trying to keep it consistent, and I guess consistent would be the word.
Yeah,
Because it can kind of, others can sort of then say, well, I want that to apply to me. And we've started to kind of lose control a little bit of the cleaning.
well, I see it as the same as if somebody was, you know, dealing drugs there or committing crimes. If you're not moving at the appointed time, then you have to leave. That's a pretty hard and fast rule. So I just, okay. Anyway, end of my question. Thank you.
Okay. Not seeing further questions, we'll open it up for public comment on this item. If any members of the public would like to speak, you'll have 3 minutes. At 1 minute, you'll hear a beep letting you know you got 60 seconds left, so please come forward. And it's got to be into the microphone. Thank you. We got folks watching at home.
It really concerns me because do you know that I was out there and I got really sick? I was like checked out for 20 hours in the emergency room. Then I come back, I'm supposed to move. And you guys won't accept doctors' excuses or anything. You know, there's some sick people out there. Can you imagine moving a tent and all your belongings every single month? I have moved probably 16 times in the last 3 years. It's insanity. We can't get anything done. And there are really sick people. And this Earth grant was intended to house first. And these opiate things, it's all messed up. I don't know, guys.
Do we have additional public comment? Hi. Good morning, technically.
My name is Shirley Combs, and I live out at Camp Justice. And for my sewer problems, I pay $135 a month. I do not dump out on the street or on the ground. Also, I take my garbage up to the garbage dumpsters. And there's a lot of older people. Well, not a lot of them at the camp now. I'm the oldest one. Anyway, we didn't make a lot of money a long time ago like they're making now. We made maybe $1 something an hour or $2 something an hour. And there's no place really for us to go. And most of the parks now are at least $800 to over $1,000 a month. Plus you still got your insurance. A lot of them's got the homeowners association. You got all your bills to pay. And you have to pay your license on your RV. I live in a motorhome. I like it out at Camp Justice. I like where I'm at because I'm back by the fence and all the deer comes and the birds come and I get to feed them. And that helps me to keep going on because that's all I have. I have that and my 3 dogs. And we need something to keep us going and to keep our lives motivated, I guess. And there's so many people. I took care of a lot of people up here, older people, till they died. And their kids abandoned them. They don't want nothing to do with them. They want what they've got, but they don't want to help them when they get old. And so I took care of a lot of people up here. And my heart just cries a lot at that time when I was taking care of them. But anyway, all I'm trying to say is that the older people don't my income is not as good as what you guys would be if you guys would retire right now. And anyway, I get about $1,200 and something a month. That's not very much. By the time you pay for your propane, the propane guy, I don't know whether they'll let me fill out at the park or not with the propane, but if I run out, then I gotta go buy a camp stove and stuff. And everything costs money, no matter how you live. And all I'm doing is trying to help the poor people and the seniors, because the seniors need help. They need love, they need respect, they need someone to care about them. And that's all I'm asking for you
Thank you.
for now. Just,
And that's the time. Thank you.
anyway, God bless you guys.
Good afternoon.
Hi again. First of all, I wanted to say, I rarely say anything grateful, but, you know, I really appreciate you guys having the camp. I've seen a lot of good come out of it. There's obviously some issues. But I think the most important thing to focus on if we keep the camp going is there needs to be some sort of an on-site manager. I feel like a lot of the problems that were spoken of would be alleviated if there was somebody there to enforce the rules and build trust with people so then they want to accept services. You know, for example, if there was somebody there to enforce so that they're not destroying the outhouses, then, you know, you wouldn't have to pay the extra money. And then also as far as like the time limit, I think it's going to be an issue because the problem is that there's already not a place for people to go. So when that time limit, you know, ends, there's really no housing. And I see that from a lot of other programs too. People go through the programs and then they end up getting out and they end up back at the camp or back homeless. So another thing that just needs to be focused on is just finding more affordable housing for people. People have incomes and stuff. They're out there waiting for housing. Yeah, so I think if you guys could focus on having an on-site manager, I think that's really important.
Thank you. And please feel free, if you're planning to make a comment, you can come forward and, good morning.
Hi, my name is Anna Britt. I have been homeless 5 years. I have never had to stay at Camp Justice. I don't really have so much as a comment as maybe a suggestion, a plea that we open our hearts to the homeless people. There's probably never going to be a perfect solution, but by God, we do deserve compassion. So speaking on that particular issue, if I could get the people behind me to maybe close their eyes, and of course you don't have to participate, draw in a breath, bring in some white light, and as you breathe that white light out, send it to the first three ladies that were up here, because that takes a lot of courage to come up here and talk and admit that, hey, you know, we are like really struggling. And let's take in another breath, bring in that white light, and let's send it to the Board of Supervisors in front of me, who have a lot of tough decisions to make, and they probably get a lot of grief. And draw in another breath of white light, and let's send that one to their staff, who probably work just as hard with no recognition whatsoever. And I still have, according to my phone, 1 minute and 30 seconds. So let's take another huge breath, and let's send that one to all of us, because, you know, I mean, how lucky are we to even be here right now? We are not in the Ukraine. We are not in the Gaza Strip. We really are quite fortunate. So let's take another big breath, fill that one with white light, and let's send it back out to Shirley and Kimberly and Jen, because I think they're fabulous people. So the final breath, maybe, let's send that to the people behind me, William I don't know all of your names. I know Nikki, and I know Tim personally, and they are all fabulous people. And I think that I'm down to 30 seconds, one last breath, and let's give that to ourselves.
Thank you. Welcome back.
All right. Once again, the last meeting that I was able to attend before I ended up having to deal with a bunch of medical stuff was, in fact, on whether or not to keep or dismantle Camp Justice. And I remember getting up here and I was really, really frazzled out. I was just like, no, you can't do that to those guys back there because you're going to have a bunch of crazies running around. But once again, just to reiterate, Camp Justice or Sanction Camp, whether or not it be Camp Justice, doesn't matter. You got to have something, right? Because we can't have nothing, because obviously you're going to have around 100 people just scattered about under bridges and wherever, you know. And I know they would much rather, and you would much rather have everybody in one spot. There's got to be, you know, what are answers to these questions. I'm sorry. Okay, so RVs are basically one step towards stability, privacy, security. The bathroom issue, I think basically if we you got to educate these people, okay? Sometimes they're not the brightest people on the planet. But, you know, hey, it's like this, you know, keep abusing the bathrooms and we will take them from you, period. And then, you know, you have to figure it out on your own, get a shovel. But you can't dismantle the camp, period, because and then you're going to have that everywhere instead of in one general location. So basically, here's the thing is, these are real people with real problems, right? And it's not just like an ant farm, you know, it kind of is in a way, but on the other hand, you know, there's solutions, right? I think educating people, and I think that if we were to, you know, do away with all this craziness, with all the building and buying properties and all that, and actually come up with a program, right? Because if the prison system can do it in California, and they can, you know, manufacture everything that they use, right, by using the inmates, why can't the homeless people, in fact, be the workers that orchestrate, you know, what would be called the worker co-op, okay? Put this money into a property where we can invest in these people, give them all a job to do, right? You either participate or you will be under a bridge. That's your answer, you know? And everybody has a part that they play. Everybody has a role. Everybody participates. And that is structure, that is security, that is stability, and that would be, you know.
Great. And that's 3 minutes. Thank you, sir. I know that it's frustrating sometimes. We keep it fair regardless of anybody's opinion, content neutral. It's always 3 minutes. That's very standard for a lot of county and city business. With that, do we have any additional public comment on this issue? Going once, going twice. All right, with that, we will close public comment. It is 12 o'clock. I think we'll probably have a reasonable amount of discussion and then a vote. I believe we have one, Supervisor Kirk, you have to step out. What I'd like is probably for us to take our lunch break for our staff to 1 p.m. and then be able to reconvene for discussion and a vote. Otherwise, we may be delaying that, 30 minutes, an hour, who knows?
I would ask the staff, because they're going to have to wait and then come back, what they want to do. I mean, not to put them on your shoulders here, but.
If we do it, then we will be making potentially a decision soon that might then only be with 3 out of 5 members, and that's what I'm more concerned about. So we'll reconvene at 1:05. All right, if we can have all supervisors return to the dais, everybody take your seats. We're going to be reconvening the board meeting. It is 1:06 p.m. We're still on item 10, presentation, discussion, and board direction on the future operations of the sanctioned camping program. All right.
All right, so if it works for the board, we can try to kind of go through this as presented here. I will mention, I don't know if I mentioned this, but item 1 and 2 up there would be kind of immediate recommendations that we would start working on. And the item 3, 4, and 5, we are recommending an implementation at the end of January, just to give, you know, folks time to adjust to any changes and give us an opportunity to operationalize some of this. So if your board opts to go forward with those last 3, we are recommending that we have a little bit of time to work those in.
Wonderful. And we did have questions and public comment before as well, so we'll bring it back to the board. I will just make the recommendation, unless there is opposition on that, that we unanimously adopt yes for the first 2. I didn't hear or expect any.
Well,
Supervisor Griever?
I had some questions prior going to lunch, so
Okay.
can I have a couple minutes, please?
Sure.
Oh, thanks. So I guess my first question is, what happens if we don't get new funding? The ERF runs out and we can't find any new funding. What are the odds, I guess is a better question, that there's no new funding available?
I feel pretty confident we can look at opioid funding to look at long-term operations. I think if we were to look at another round of ERF, we would just want to look at it closely to make sure that it doesn't restrict us in running the program we want to run. We have been told for the last several months that another round of ERF is forthcoming. We have not seen that actually get posted, but we would probably be targeting opioid funding to look at long-term operations, and we do have that funding available should the board choose to fund the program with that.
Okay, so if we don't receive new funding, worst case scenario is that the board has to make a decision on what to do with Camp Justice in August, September of next year.
Correct.
Okay. Chair, your choice. I can go into my tirade or.
We can keep going into questions. I figured, as we briefly talked about, there might be some of these that are just easy to go through and say yes, and then we can focus the conversation where there may be some discussion. I think if there's any questions amongst the rest of the board too, this would be appropriate. I know I'm interested in the bathroom issue too, whether that is something that can be absorbed or adopted with public health, or at least to ask that other options are looked at, some of the permanent, again, trailer ones that are used in other areas with larger capacity tanks that are a little more robustly built. $5,000 a month is a lot. I understand that is for cleaning and for misuse of it, but more robust, larger storage might help. Are there other questions?
I don't have any other.
Supervisor Griever, take it away.
Want me to just jump in?
Apparently there's tirade out.
Tirade, so I've been waiting since
to
lunch.
happen.
So
Tirade
I guess I'll just jump into this. So one of the comments earlier was, you know, we're talking about governance versus compassion, right? We want to be compassionate to the people that are using this land. We're using taxpayer dollars. We're using opioid dollars. We're using funds that have a very specific earmark for, and I want to make sure that people, especially for me, my compassion is there, but I also have a job to be good stewards of the money and good stewards of the land. And some of the issues that I have with Camp Justice as a whole is that it feels like it's a one-way street. It feels like the county is giving, and we're not receiving back from the people there support and gratitude's not the word I want to use, but kind of being helpful and thank you that, you know, we're putting things in place. We're recognizing that first there was no shade and we worked on shade. Then there was no water and we put water in. Then there was an issue with trash, so then we put a dumpster in. Then there was an issue with no bathrooms, and then we put a bathroom in. So just at what point do we stop? Well, at what point do we say, this is the line in the sand, we need the people that are using that area to help, you know, help keep that area viable? To Supervisor Brandon's point about a larger tank, using the baseball statement, if you build it, they'll come. Right? If you put in a bathroom system that can hold X number of thousands of gallons, well, eventually X thousands of gallons will be put in there. So for me, where I have the biggest issue is doing the right thing for the majority of the people. The majority of the people would like to see Camp Justice go, right? They don't see the value, but they're also not in that environment. They're not there. So how do I balance the difference here? So I am okay with, if you want to go down your checklist, I'm okay with the continuation. I'm also okay with seek new funding, but I want to make sure that we understand as a board that should the ERF funds run out and should we not receive new funding, this board will have to make a determination on how we wish to address Camp Justice in the future. And I just want to make sure that it's on our radar and that we're seeing it coming down the road. As far as the RV removal, they all need to go. And the RV should, in my opinion, should never have been put there in the first place. I know we can't go back in time and unring the bell, but we're here now, so let's fix it. I would recommend that we remove all RVs. The only vehicles that should be on there are operational vehicles, like cars, in my opinion. And those cars are not to be lived in, right? Because you're just trading one for the other. So, and if we do move forward with that, my recommendation would be that that goes into effect January 30th of 26. So that way it gives people opportunity to get through the holiday season. Maybe they can start looking for places to move to or what have you. And obviously with the winter being what it is, we're not dropping it right on them at that last point. As far as the cleaning frequency, I'm torn. Well, I'm not torn. It needs to be cleaned on a regular basis. And part of staying at Camp Justice is that you are following the rules. And if the rules are that that you have to move and clean, whether it's once or twice a month, that's just part of staying there. No one is forcing anybody to stay at Camp Justice. We want to be as compassionate and as helpful as possible, but there are rules, there are guidelines that need to be addressed. I've been there, I've met people from the community at there, I've been there several times, and some of the issues that I have with the cleaning is that, yes, people will take an inch, take a mile if you give them an inch. If you say you have to move, but I'm not feeling well, or whatever options they provide to you, I think it's a hard line in the sand, and that's what Supervisor Campbell said, is that they move, right, where they're not going to be a guest, right? So for me, it needs to be twice a month. And then, and that also needs to be applied to if there's damage being done to the property itself, right? That's an automatic, you're out. It's an automatic. If you're digging a trench, if you're dumping gray water, black water, we have an obligation to the citizens and the people of this community to make sure that that land, which they own, people own this land, not us, but the people own this land, that land needs to be maintained, cleaned, and not damaged. And then lastly, as far as time limited, I think it needs to be 90 days. I don't think 120 days should be applicable here. I think 90 days is enough time, in my opinion, either to receive services or choose not to receive services. If you choose not to receive services, you know when the clock starts, you know when the clock ends. I know it's not on here, but one of the things I want to weigh in on is someone had mentioned about having a person live there or be there full time, right? That's 4 people, right? You'd have to have 4 people if you're going to do 24 hours, right? One in the day, one in the night, and then people for days off. So I don't think having someone there full time is going to be, unless we can find a way to fund it, and I don't believe it should come out of general funds, and I don't believe it should be, another full-time employee on our books as we are going through this restructuring of the county and addressing its funds to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So those are my responses to your boxes. Thank you.
Going through these, I'm a yes on each of those. Some very overall comments. I have heard a different story on it over time. What came out first was very controversial, I think, to the board, to the county, also to a lot of the public. What I've heard is a very strong majority in support of this. This is, at least within my district, I spend less time in the other districts than I do District 5, but we have seen a notable reduction in camps all around the town centers, along riverways. We've seen this be an effective tool for law enforcement. The sheriff, I know, has spoken a number of times, not talking about, I think, the philosophies of that, but about efficacy. Is this an effective tool in doing that mission, and saying that, I don't want to speak for the sheriff, but that this has been an effective tool in the toolbox. I think part of that success has been, and this going into like, where does that stop? It is limited. It is a campground. It is not trying to be a recovery center. It is trying to be a place for people to congregate and to be there while they hopefully build trust and move to a better option where recovery actually happens in an environment conducive to it. It's not meant to be a permanent long-term stay facility. And the more it goes to that, I am skeptical too. It should not be more than I think what it is. I do think we need to have more than what it is available, but those need to happen at different places that are made for that. And I view this as a cost savings. So I think we should continue with this funding. I do think we should and have backup options for funding that we could look at and be creative with. If the worst comes to worst, we should look at this as this is consolidating what used to be a number of calls constantly to the sheriffs, to fire, to EMS, all across the county at some 40-plus sites, which is extremely difficult and expensive and stressful for our staff, and it takes on liability, and many of those are general fund funded services. This is a much easier to manage problem. So saying it is still a problem compared to the other one, I think is missing the point that this is a lot of harm reduction for something that is a very challenging issue. So I'm a yes, and then a yes. I agree on the RV removal. I don't think that should have ever been approved. The board never had given direction to do that. The concern being is that it's very easy for that to then fill up fully and become a effectively RV park. I would say, and this is not on this list, we should look at the creation of an RV park that actually makes sense of this. We should look at future funding. The reason we have these opportunities and these housing opportunities is because we did, when the funding was there, go after it with a vision. We created it, and we have worked through the problems to make sure they are successful since. We have to have that vision, and not just how are we holding accountable what we're currently doing, but what are we doing next to be able to add into this ecosystem when it makes sense for the county. I think we should have an RV site. I just think an RV site has very different needs than what we're talking about for a campground. I would say that the RV removal should be delayed partly because of weather. Right now, I think is not a good time. We have allowed them to be on there for a while. So I don't know what staff's recommendation would be, but probably, yeah. Oh, thank you. That was early in the process.
Yeah, January 31st, I think is when they were saying.
I think we should delay it to where we're talking about sunny weather. We're talking about, especially if they're looking to try and get into, as opposed to unfortunately, a camper, an RV person couldn't go and look for a site, but they're going to have to go through an application process, and that it will take a little more time. So I'm a yes, but I think we should delay. For the cleaning frequency, I am fine with staff recommendation. I think that has been an effective accountability tactic. If people maintain their site, we force them to do something they don't want to do less often. And if they don't, they have to pack up, move, and go through that process. To me, that's effective. I'm not sure if doing more cleaning frequencies would increase the frequency also of the challenges you're having, where somebody may make a valid excuse and then everybody bandwagons onto that to say, me too. And then suddenly we no longer have rules. If we're doing it twice as often, are we simply running into that problem twice as often? So I'm fine with twice a month. I still like the cleaning frequency being an incentive for good behavior. I think that's been simple and very straightforward. Last, with the time limited, I have a hard time with this because if we're talking about time limited, I don't know how long before they could return to that site, where they would go after that. Are we simply encouraging them to enter into another area? And I also don't know in terms of having somewhat of a cool down period and engaging with staff to build that trust. Is a 4-month period of time adequate? 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, I'm not sure. I know that I don't want to know that somebody has been there for 5 years and chooses to not in any way engage to try and get better. That, I agree, there should be some time limit. 120 days feels very short to achieve that. The number I put was 6 months. We often talk about 6 months in terms of that, so 180 days. But again, not permanent, but on the longer side. This is a very low-cost type intervention. I think we can afford to allow them to be there while we're developing that trust with our staff. So let me see. I mentioned about the multi-stool toilet kind of trailers there. These are used at some types of festivals. I've seen them used similarly down in Stanislaus County. They have up to 10 times the capacity in terms of gallons, so you don't have to pump as often. They're not plastic, they're metal, so they're going to be a lot more resistant to damage. And I think some of them have accessibility. It's a lot easier to pump. So I would assume any contaminants in there would be easier if it's an elevated platform rather than something that has to have a suction pipe kind of go in. I don't know, but it feels like there might be a better option. If we're spending effectively $72,000 a year, or $68,000 or whatever that adds up to, that we might need to invest in something. As far as improvements to the site, again, I don't want it to be more in the campground, but having a better designed restroom facility seems to be within the, nobody is going to go to that camp to say they've got a really great bathroom that's shared by 50 people. Nobody's going to be brought in because of that. I'm not concerned that that will be an attraction. I'm more interested in that being a cost savings and a maintenance savings to keep the site clean and keep the environment there clean. Supervisor Kirk?
Sorry, I did have a question earlier, but there's a lot going on over here. My quick question is real quick for the folks who were here earlier who are in RVs. Don't they have the opportunity to get into programs, to get into housing, to get out of RVs?
Yes.
To get into housing?
I mean, I think what we have found is that, sometimes we've looked at, say, transitioning into the shelter, or the AGCA shelter, or the navigation center on that, pipeline that we've shown. Oftentimes people don't want to part with their RVs to be able to go into shelter, and so we've run into kind of that challenge. If we had someone said, yep, I don't want my RV anymore, I want to go into programming, there's programming available, but we see that the concern of getting rid of the RV is a barrier for a lot.
Okay. And then this will help me decide how I answer these real quick. Do we have the ability for people who want a program, who don't want to have their site cleaned every 2 weeks, who want to get into housing, do we have the availability to make that happen for anybody who wants to do it at that camp?
I mean, I think
For
the
the
easy answer is yes.
Okay.
There, as you know, there's not a lot of bed availability in some of our programs, and so we do run into that. But yeah, that's the whole goal of what we do out there.
Okay, which is getting me back to where this whole conversation started. I can agree with Supervisor Griefer with part of what he said. I really do never want to use general fund monies. I've been true to that. But I've been here for 7 years, and I've seen the whole pendulum swing to where people were running out in the streets and polluting our waterways, and people were pissed off that we weren't doing anything. We've come a long way. And the point of this camp isn't to provide a fun place to hang out. It's if law enforcement makes encounters under the bridges or in certain illegal sites, they have somewhere to place them. From there, they get placed into a program. It's not to park your RV. It's not to do comfortable living. And so if people think that getting rid of this in the long run is a good plan, no, that's the worst. This is a great thing. We just got to fine tune it to where we are rewarding folks who want support and help. We're going to help them all the way. And those who don't, then this program is only going to last you 120 days or unless you violate some of the rules and then we trespass you. That's where I'm at. So yes, to continuum. I always want this program to go. Yes, seek new funding. Yes, remove RV twice a month for cleaning. And I believe that you guys have the ability to use discrepancy if you have a medical issue or whatever that is. You guys are professionals. And then time limited. If your recommendation is 120 days, I'll agree to that. So that's where I'm at.
Supervisor Campbell?
Well, I'm grateful for my colleagues. They all brought up some of the things that I wanted to talk about, and I appreciate your comments, Supervisor Kirk, bringing up the context of what we're talking about right now, because looking at where we were 3 years ago versus now, the scale of the problems we're talking about now are, by comparison, minuscule. I mean, if you look at Camp Hope, you had a friggin', 120, at times more than that, campers on a trash dump that was sort of on private property, sort of on state property, sort of in the city limits, sort of in the county, and it was just a mess. The law enforcement was out there 10 times a day with crime and every kind of horrible crime you can think of happening there. And not, if you phrase the question to, I think, our community members, not do we want Camp Justice, but would you prefer the current state of Camp Justice versus where we were 3 years ago with Camp Hope, I think overwhelmingly the community would favor the current Camp Justice setup. So that's kind of the context of where I'm looking at these things. So where we sit now is in such a better position. I just really wanted to kind of highlight that. Obviously, I think we should continue the program. And I've been pretty clear that in the beginning of this, I was very nearly not supportive of doing this. I mean, it was one of those rare votes where I was not sure coming in that morning how I was going to fall. I've seen county staff, HHSA staff, so all the departments under HHSA working together with law enforcement, working together with our nonprofit partners. Churches have supported this. It's been a huge success in a lot of ways. So that's brought me around to where I've just seen how successful this can be. We need to seek new funding, obviously. I'm more confident maybe than my colleagues that there will be some kind of funding in the future that can keep this going. And so I think if we pull the rug out now, it would be really premature. I'm hopeful there might be something when we have successes in this area. I think we can get support. I've always had an issue with the RV situation out there. I'm in favor of removing them for the reasons I think my colleagues did a good job covering those. I'm a little concerned. This is the one place I differ. 2 times a month asking people to move feels punitive to me. And I don't see any reason to do that. These are not people that are there that are being punished. They're there trying to get back on their feet. And so I think 1 cleaning a month is sufficient. That's twice. I remember it was once a week, wasn't it? And that was a huge inconvenience for not just the people there, but the staff. Because, you had to have law enforcement out there. You had to have county staff out there making sure things went well. And, I see no reason to go more than once a month. And like I talked about earlier, if people say, no, I don't want to move, well, that's the rule. You have to move locations once a month. I feel comfortable that that's enough of a deterrent to. And then the 120 days, I think, is a good recommendation. I think that's an area where I don't really have the expertise to know what is an appropriate time for people who are looking for housing, looking for services, for them to get into a place where they're able to do all the things that they need to do to get those services. So if I'm hearing from HHSA staff, if I'm hearing from the Homeless Service Committee that's a good time period, I'm going to take their word on it because they're the experts. So that's about it. And for anybody this is a long way from being being a swinging hotspot in the county. I don't think we have to worry too much about at this point people abusing it or people being there that don't need to be there. I think this is and has always been designed as a last resort for people that would otherwise be camping in watersheds and in locations that the community absolutely doesn't want to see. And we have plenty of examples of that in our recent history. So if we're preventing that from happening again, I think that this is successful.
Supervisor Griefer.
Thank you. So to Supervisor Ryan's, Campbell's point is that if we move them twice a month and they're there for 120 days, it's only 8 times, right? So it's only 8 times over 4 months. I think that for me is doable, right? And I agree. If we're using the question is, what is the intent? If the intent is to reward them by keeping their clean area and we only make it once a month, great. If the answer is that we're going to be punitive, to use yours, then yeah, that's not right either. So I think we can find a happy medium in there, but it's only, so there's only 8 times, of 120 days. But more importantly, I think one thing that we haven't discussed and one thing that we should discuss is a 5-year plan. Where do we want to be in 5 years from now? Where do we want this, let's just say in a perfect world, we continue to fund it, we keep getting the money. We don't have a 5-year plan. We don't even have a 1-year plan. I specifically asked, where are we going to be in a year and a half from now, right? So maybe that's something we should also task an organization with, to say, where do you want to be in 5 years from now? Do we want to make it larger? Do we want to add on services, a new bathroom, a shaded area? Where do we want? Because right now it's just, like you said, yeah, it's not a hot spot, but it's a nebulous little spot that everyone sees from the highway. to a degree. So where do we want to be as an organization in 5 years? And that might help us actually out with funding down the road. We can, if we have a 5-year plan, a 5-year plan to say, hey, look, in 5 years from now, we expect to have X number of spots available. We plan on serving X number of individuals. We have a transition, right? I just think that's one of the components that we're not having in this discussion. And that might not be for now, because I know we've already discussed a lot, but I think we definitely want to throw on the radar having that discussion of where does this county want to be in 5 years with this property.
I only wanted to clarify on the cleaning frequency with that. I tend to be more with Supervisor Campbell. I think what I had written here, and this is the direction I gave before too, and it sounds maybe kind of similar, is once a month or as needed. And so again, that you have the flexibility to do it as many times as you think you need to but a minimum once a month. I'm not sure why we need to do it twice a month. I would say if you think you need to do it twice that month, go do it. But not like if everything's great, we need to do it twice. We have had in 2019 a plan to combat homelessness. There was a list of, I think, priorities in 2022. There was a few of these documents that came forward. The challenge with this site, I think, is inherently temporary nature. Not to say that we don't need this, but that this site may very likely, and is not planned to be the permanent site forever. Eventually, roads will get fixed there. We will see a building of some type. I think if this works well, we would hopefully aim to relocate this to an alternative site, and that could be a 5-year plan. What is the 5-year plan for this type of thing? But for the same reason, we haven't really put anything there that has deep roots, like foundations and stuff. That's the difficulty. It's been so challenging with the funding availability to know what's going to be coming down, what opportunities, or what issues kind of come up. So personally, I've been okay with a 1-year plan as we're dealing with this site and kind of bringing it back and iterating on it. I think having one for what, for lack of a better word, emergency intervention, say that's a RV, a safe parking site we've talked about, an RV type site, a camping site, where that may make sense long-term, kind of what is the version 2 after this site? I think that would be a really good discussion, for sure, because ultimately that comes down to where is their land that similarly is not a hotspot, is not so remote as it's dangerous, but is not so close to things that it causes its own problems.
No, and I think you hit it on the head, is that, homelessness is not going away, right? I mean, in our perfect world, we want homeless to go away. That means society has been successful. But on the flip side of that, if it's predictable, it's preventable. So we want to make sure that if we can, am I getting waved at?
No, if we want to have this conversation, let's
No,
just put it on the
I'm sorry,
future
I
agenda.
derailed us.
And I might, maybe I can
we're just
help.
trying to answer these
The Homeless Service Committee did start to kind of have that long-term planning momentum, if you will. And so there are certainly some ideas. I'm looking at Tom, who spent quite a bit of time of looking at what, you guys might remember Camp 2.0. So some of those conversations have been had. We've kind of paused, recognizing that right now the focus is just on the end of the program. But I think we could task the Homeless Service Committee with continuing that and maybe bringing forward a long-term strategy to this board at some point in the future. We could absolutely do that.
And this is the biggest thing, but we've talked about it a lot, I think privately. But the pallets, especially with the rain here, I know that was one of the outstanding items. We didn't really have it very well prepared for wet weather. The gravel road was certainly an improvement in that, but the campsites themselves, is that something currently being rolled out?
Yes, we have acquired 120 plastic pallets, and we are working on kind of like a prototype, if you will, looking at how we can kind of secure them, how we can make sure that they're removable so that they can be cleaned. So that is all actively happening.
Excellent.
And we do have one site kind of we're piloting right now with the pallets.
And that'll all come before the board prior to going into being rolled out? Because I don't recall giving the green light to go with the pallets. Right, but the Board of Supervisors has not decided whether or not they wish to put this out and to roll these out. So I think before we actually put them out in the field, I think the board has an obligation to make sure that this is something that the board wants to do.
The view to
Well,
me is this was more of an operational, adaptation. It certainly could be.
Well, no,
There are
because-
certain things that don't come before, and it's a bit of a line, like where that would be drawn. I know that you did present this, I think, with the 2.0. I remember you did bring it up publicly that this was being implemented. I don't think we gave direction at that point to bring that back. I know I brought it up just now, but this wasn't the first time. I believe at the 2.0 presentation, you brought it up.
We did speak, recognizing that we were needing to do some preparation for winter, and so we did talk about the pallets. I don't remember what meeting that was at, but I don't recall being advised to bring that back for implementation. I could have missed that.
Let's see here. That would have been the June 3rd meeting. And what I had written down was that 2.0 was presented, but there was also a number of things that was in there: chain link fence, lighting. There was the sheriff was very specific about putting in fencing that would then possibly introduce, legalities of them doing their job. So my understanding from my notes is that anything new that was going in there was going to be brought back before the board for
Yeah,
potential
and
costs, potential.
Yeah, we were able to get the pallets through an additional grant. We didn't have to spend any funding. And I think because we already have folks that have pallets out there, it wasn't necessarily like a new thing. It was more additional resources for people to be able to essentially put their stuff out of the dirt.
I get it, and I can read lips pretty good, so I know they're not permanent. I appreciate that. But it was just more of the rolling out of the 2.0, right? I didn't.
We're not- that
My notes had that was going to come back because I know we were against the fencing, So if that, and I could be the only one I'm just going off the notes that I have at that time. Is that 2.0 was rolled out or was introduced? It was going to come back. So if we want to do the pallets, I don't have a problem with that. I just want to make sure that we're not committing.
Yeah, and there were things like the trees were limbed at 1.2, which is a fairly substantial alteration, and some of the brush removed. We didn't approve a site plan. I guess I categorized that in there, but ultimately, my view is if the board would like to have it come back, we have that right to review it. I would be fine with giving at least my personal direction today that I'm fine with that. If it wants to be reviewed, I think in the Homeless Services Committee, that may be an appropriate space to then discuss it. I don't know that we need to have it to the county board full-time, because we'd be bringing that, I think, back as a specific item. To me, it's kind of small. If the committee wants to review it, I'd recommend that, and I think that'd be great. Whatever the committee says on that, that's fine, if that works. I would support that.
No, I was just saying, I was a little surprised that one. I did not know we had moved forward on obtaining those and moving forward with that. So
Yeah, well, so can you introduce yourself specifically and?
Member
what-
of this homelessness committee specifically requested to experiment with the pallet idea. And what our interpretation of the meeting was that we would proceed with just an experiment and an assessment as to the suitability and viability of the pallets, which we decided to collectively amongst the team to do 10 sites. We need to consider, pest control, the ability to be able to move them for cleaning, all these things. There's learnings that needed to occur. So we've only gone that far. We've not implemented pallets at this point, even though we have quite a few that we could at some point.
I'll leave it up
Does that
to
have-
my colleagues if they want it.
Throw it if other board members have direction or thoughts on that. Otherwise, we do have, I think, the 5 things here. You've gotten some of the more general feedback from each of us too. I wanted to ask staff if you have the direction that you need, if there's anything you need clarification on. I know we have a couple here that, I'm fine with the 122. That's not a problem. I don't know if you need direction on any of these other ones.
It looks like the only one that we might need some more direction on is the
Yeah, I was
cleaning
gonna say, if you
frequency, because there's a
average
tie.
If you average 90 with 180.
So something that you said, Supervisor Rayner, which I know I don't normally say this, but I really liked was, if I agree that with the cleaning, yeah, write that down.
I'm going to write it down.
Yeah, as well
What's
as you should.
today?
It's on
What's
video,
today's
so,
date? The 18th?
Is that I'm good with your guys' best operational view. So if you feel, I would say start at the top. If twice a month is doing the job, great. If you feel that it's not, you don't need it twice a month, like Supervisor Brandon said, that the area is clean, then use your best judgment. I would be good with that. I think that's a great.
All right.
What if we said once a month with the ability to make it more frequent if it's necessary?
Yep, I think that's,
Yeah.
And
Well, I
Andy,
think that
Andy knows where I'm at. I'm once a week, but
well, the
I'm
point
gonna
of
lose
the
that.
point of the cleaning is multiple flow, right? One, it's to obviously
Well,
clean.
the point of the
Two-
cleaning is to get people to not want. We don't want people to
No,
be here.
I get that, but
That's
even
the
if it's once a week, we still want to make sure that there's no damage to the ground. We want to make sure that there's no damage to the facility. So
I'm outvoted, so I'll stop talking.
all right, fair enough.
all right, so what I'm hearing is mostly unanimous on most of the stuff and pretty much a majority or close to unanimous for cleaning frequency time limited, once a month or more as needed, 120 days at staff recommendation. Is that correct? Good with everybody? So do you need a vote as well? or-
I don't think
and-
so. I think I'll just reiterate so that it's very clear for the next time we come that we will work to implement the bottom three within that January 31st deadline. So we will just, I want to make sure that that's clear. And then if there's anything else that I need direction of what you guys are expecting from us or from the committee, I'll open it up for that. Otherwise, I think we've got what we need.
And Supervisor Griefer?
Sir?
Oh, I thought you were saying.
No, again,
And I did, there was one thing I brought up, I know we didn't talk about it too much. I am, and I wouldn't bring it up if it wasn't significant, we're all in agreement on the RV removal. I am concerned Thanksgiving and the holidays and the January 31st deadline in the logistics of actually getting an RV out and ideally to some other location, that will not be, one, very good weather to do it in, and two, that it's not enough time to maybe find a spot or at least have a chance at finding a spot.
So Supervisor Brandon, at the last homelessness committee meeting, that was absolutely brought up. It was not lost on anybody there that removing the RVs would solve a problem at Camp Justice but create another problem somewhere else. And so that was kind of that's going to be the main thrust of what we'll be talking about at the next meeting, is finding a resolution for that. And it may not even come in the form of, having another site where the RVs go. It may not have to be as complicated as that. It could just be using some of the money to rent spaces at existing locations, find some kind of workaround, get people housed from RVs. It may be able to work through some of those problems without having it be a second Camp Justice somewhere else, which I think is something that everybody is wanting to avoid.
I appreciate that. And I think the root of the question is, do you have enough time to do that? Do you feel that we won't have anybody slip through based on weather or timing, that with those resources and interventions, it will be addressed? That was my only concern. I appreciate all those approaches.
I think if it's not, you can come back to the board and say you need more time.
Okay.
If
Yeah.
if January 31st is approaching, we don't know where these people are going to go, and they're going to wind up parked on Standard Road, in front of the park or something like that, then we'll have to reassess. But
And I would just caution, I remain hopeful, but I don't know if we're going to be able to find a location for everybody, but that certainly is the goal. But I'm hearing that if that is the reality that we face, that we will bring that back to you guys. I'm not trying to be not hopeful.
No, it's realistic.
I think we have already we've been engaging in those conversations with folks as soon as we heard that this was a recommendation of the committee, and we know the challenges that we have to face. The committee is committed to working through that, but if we are not able to successfully find a location for everyone, we will bring it back.
Great. Okay. Have the direction you need?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. Well, we'll close up item number 10. Thank you again for the presentation. Let's see. So we have item 11 is pretty quick, but we do have an 11:30 appointment. So let's enter into the 11:30 appointment. If we can get all set up and prepared for that and reconvene as the Air Pollution Control Board for our 11:30. If clerk can read the item. Switch hats.
As the Air Pollution Control Board, 11:30 a.m., public hearing to review and receive comments on the Air Pollution Control District fiscal year 2025-2026 budget.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. I know sometimes our appointments we're working on it, so.
Well, good morning, Honorable Air Pollution Control Board. My name is Cody Thompson. I'm Air Pollution Control Officer for the county. A little background on this topic, just so that way it's known. California Health and Safety Code requires the Air Pollution Control District to present its annual budget in a public hearing, 2 to be exact. This will be also held exclusively for the purpose and separate from any other budget hearing. The air pollution control budget was formally adopted in the county budget process on September 23rd, 2025, on my second day of work here. A copy of that budget is included as attachment A.
Great.
The board must now review and adopt this budget as a Tuolumne County Air Pollution Control District. This requires 2 public hearings, like I stated. This is the first. This is to review and receive comments. And a second will be scheduled, proceeding in 2 weeks according to the Health and Safety Code.
Great.
Quick summary of the final budget. As stated, the nit and gritty details is in attachment A, but just want to go over briefly that there was a overall decrease of $86,694 from fiscal year 2024-2025 final budget to the adopted budget. Just as a reminder, the air pollution control budget does not receive any general fund. That's why when I say it's a decrease of revenue and a decrease of expenditures, because it does balance to a 0 net county cost. We will continue the wood smoke reduction grant program into fiscal year 2025-2026. Also with revenue, while DMV registration fee revenue was originally projected to decrease in the approved 25-26 budget, updated revenues estimate now indicate a slight increase comparative to the budgeted amount. Personnel, through the interfund transfer, the Air Pollution Control District funds the agriculture budget for the time spent by the Agriculture Commissioner, Air Pollution Control Officer, and agriculture staff on air pollution control activities. The increase in the interfund transfer in the fiscal year 25-26 budget is due predominantly to the Air Pollution Control Officer working in place of also having a deputy. And also another note would be the fact that there's a reduction in consultants' fees as well. Services and supplies, the majority of the reduction there resulted from the removal of funding for an engineering consultant previously used to support toxic hotspot reporting requirements, and again, to help fulfill some of the deputy specialty type topics. So it is recommended that your board set a hearing date after holding a public comment period for the public hearing here. Set a public hearing date for December 16th, 2025 at 11 a.m. to consider adopting the Air Pollution Control District fiscal year 25-26 budget. Also, if you haven't caught on, this is me playing catch up as fast as I can, with it being my ninth week on the job trying to get all these check boxes done here, so.
Doing great, thank you.
Yep.
All right, so for today, we are not adopting it. We're just here to review and receive comments on that. I assume if we have any questions as well. Any questions from the board? I did want to ask about the status on the hotspot contract that we used to have, whether that's now brought back in-house or not.
Say that one more time?
The hotspot reporting contract that we had when we did not have air pollution control officer, is that now brought back where we are doing our own hotspot reporting?
Yes, right now currently we are working through utilizing the tools that were placed into my hands from previous administration.
Great.
To utilize that to the best of our ability to create those toxic hotspot reports.
Great, thank you, and that's a huge help to us as well. So, if there's no additional board questions or comment, open it up for public comment. Any members of the public would like to speak to us? Again, we are convened as the Air Pollution Control Board hearing the 25-26 budget, reviewing and receiving any comments? Going once? Going twice? All right, seeing none, we will close public comment on that. I didn't tap the gavel. Did I need to tap the gavel? I forget. To say the hearing was open? The hearing was opened. We did public comment. Seeing no further public comment on that, we will close the 11:30 a.m. public hearing. And
One was kind of a tap and the other was more of a slam. I don't know. Does
I
it-
got, I,
So it's the amount,
I
how
felt
much
the power of
pressure
it.
is required per gavel slam?
It's about enthusiasm.
Okay.
Okay, so with that, we'll go into, I think, our final public appointment before closed session, which is our item 11, and reconvene as the Board of Supervisors.
Nice.
Getting on there.
All right.
Item number 11, discussion and direction on the proposed 2026 County of Tuolumne Board of Supervisors meeting calendar.
All right, good afternoon, Board. Liz Peterson with the County Administrator's Office. So the past few years, your board has adopted an annual meeting calendar, and so before you is the draft for 2026. And so today, we're looking for a little bit of input from your board, and then we will bring back the official calendar for your board's adoption at the December 16th board meeting. So a couple things that are included in this draft calendar is the listing of the regular board meetings, and they are scheduled so that we avoid any like Monday after the federal holiday type things. So looking for any board direction on that to make sure you're good with that. We've also included any of the annual conferences, so RCRC, CSAC, and NACO are on there, and so then we do our best to schedule avoiding conflicts with those. We've also identified in the calendar when the proposed annual board workshop is, and so looking for any input on that or direction. We've also identified when the budget would take place, the recommended budget and then the adopted budget. And we did, just so you know, we did discuss this specifically with the Finance Committee, and their recommendation is that we do the recommended in June and then the adopted in September. And so that is listed on the proposed calendar for your board, but of course you can provide any additional direction on that. And then also there's an identifier on the calendar for the Board of Equalization hearing, and that is determined by the clerk of the board and the assessor's office. So that date is set. And then any potential special meeting dates, those are listed on the calendar as well, but of course open for any board direction. And then also we include, we've done this the past couple of years, some blackout dates, and that's really for staff and for your board too, I think to kind of have some time, some downtime where we know for sure, like during the holidays and post-budget, where there will not be board meetings taking place, giving staff some time to have a bit of a break, but of course also looking for any board direction on that. So whatever your board directs today, we will make any adjustments to, and then we'll bring it back for your board's approval on the 16th.
Great. Thank you, except that, Liz, you scheduled a meeting on my birthday. Yeah, January 13th, I know, so, but besides that, it looks good for me. Do you have any comments or questions from the board?
Just one quick, when do we usually do the recommended budget?
We have almost always done it in June. One year, we didn't do a recommended budget and we did the adopted in June. But usually the recommended budget is like the third meeting in June.
Okay, all right. No, that's what I thought, is that it's, I couldn't remember if it's at the end or in the beginning, or, okay.
It has to be approved by the 30th of June.
Okay, all right.
All right, we'll open up public comment on this item. If any members of the public would like to speak, please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes. No burning opinions about our meetings calendar? Okay. With that, we'll close public comment on item 11, and I'll look for further comment, discussion, or a motion from the board.
Motion to approve the calendar.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Campbell,
Second.
second by Supervisor Griefer. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining. All right, passes unanimously. All right, so with that, we have, I believe, 3 closed session items. Clerk, the board would read items 12, 13, and 14.
Item number 12, closed session, public employee performance evaluation, Authority Government Code Section 54957B1, title, Public Defender. Item number 13, closed session, public employee performance evaluation, Authority Government Code Section 54957B1, title, Public Health Officer and Medical Director for Emergency Medical Services. Item number 14, closed session, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Authority Government Code Section 54956.9D1, Mark Villa Senior versus County of Tuolumne et al., Tuolumne County Superior Court, case number CV 67798.
Okay, great. And just checking with council, do we expect a report out on these items?
Mr. Chairman, we do not anticipate any reports out following closed session, so if the board chooses, it may adjourn following closed session.
Okay, wonderful. We will open up public comment with that for items 12, 13, and 14, if any members of the public would like to come forward. We'll have 3 minutes, beeps at 1 minute. Welcome back.
I used to be a fan of Sheriff Vasquez, but recently I found out that he prefers maple bar donuts over sprinkles. So I was like, maybe not so much anymore. But seriously, one thing I admire about him is when he handles mental health situations, he goes above and beyond. Like the adaptation, how he is now versus how the department was years ago, it's a big difference. So another thing that needs to change within the county is how behavioral health or public health handles those 5150 situations where people are just going crazy, losing their mind, but they can't get medication. You have people going in there time and time again trying to get medication, they can't get it. So what that goes to is suicide attempts or suicides. How many times have those people that are committing suicide, have they asked for help? We don't know because it's not tracked. Okay, 5150s are not tracked. Domestic violence are not tracked by the public health department. All this information we're having a major crisis on, but none of it's tracked by the health department. The sheriff has all the info, which is awesome, but the public health department should have it as well. I talked to a lot of citizens over time, over the past year, probably hundreds of citizens that just tell me time after time after time, the public health department's just failed me, and it's pretty damn sad. I'm thankful I have the 100% VA, so it's like I don't rely on this system because my life would be a lot worse than what it is. As far as the emergency ambulance part of it, we should have been presented the agreement of what Manteca Ambulance was trying to get. If they're only trying to get $600,000 more, but now we're going on this whole different path, why weren't we presented with that? Now we're probably gonna have to pay millions of dollars more to get the same kind of service, right? There's also been a huge, I don't want to say cover up, but there's just a lack of information coming from that department. It's the people's department, right? We're spending $6 million to provide the service, but yet we can't get any information. It's kind of ridiculous. There's a meeting coming up on Thursday, a dispatch committee hearing that's always been open to the public, but now all of a sudden it's closed. And even if you do go, you have to sign a confidentiality agreement. So I don't see what all the secrecy is about because it's a public department, right? So I think there's a few things that need to be considered when you go in the back room, that mental health is seriously lacking, and either we need somebody new or somebody to do their job. Same with the Tuolumne County General. We need to change that third floor to the mental health department, so the 5150s, instead of going to the hospital, sitting in a gurney, they could go to the Tuolumne General.
Appreciate it. All right, do we have additional public comment on items 12, 13, and 14? Going once? Going twice? All right, we will close that, or close public comment for those items, and it is 2 o'clock on the nose. We will adjourn into closed session without an expected report out. Thank you, everybody.